Hey guys, happy Sunday. Yay! I hope you're having a fabulous Sunday. I'm so excited to see you guys again. I missed you guys last week, but you know what? I had my dad and my stepmom over and we had a blast, and I can't wait to fill you in on all of that. But before we get started into stories and making cool drinks and talking about our Native American ancestors, the Revolutionary War, if you don't know who I am, I am Tara with The Savage Wild, and you can learn a little bit more about me by checking out my website, thesavagewild.com. It's right at the bottom of the screen, but also you can click on it in the description box. You can also click on ways to help support the channel, either through YouTube membership or Patreon, which the first of the month is coming up fairly quickly. So my patrons and my YouTube members, stay tuned as all the goodies for the first of the month are coming out. And if you are not a member or you're not a patron, but you're interested in some of the goodies that I have to offer, some free goodies, then maybe check out my newsletter. I put out a newsletter on the first of every month. I don't play the spam game, so I don't hit your email with tons of like random, hey, do this, do that. It's just one beautiful newsletter the first of every month, and it's got music in there. It has art, it has DIYs, it has teas, it has animal medicine, herbal medicine, lots of good stuff. Definitely go check it out. But okay, all right, let's go ahead and dive in. So I put out a poll on my YouTube channel page, and that same poll I also offer to my YouTube members exclusively and my Patreon exclusively. So if you are helping out through YouTube membership or Patreon, you get extra votes on what we are going to do during our Sunday live chats. That's what the voting is for. And so of the 4 topics that I put up, there was a tie with a couple of them. So we're going to end up doing both because you know what? It's going to be fun anyway. So, hey, Siren is here. It says, yay, I'm here. Hello, hello. Hope you're having a fabulous day. Okay. So to start off the live chat, I'm going to be making a red, white, and blue iced tea latte. Latte because there's milk in it. So I'm keeping most everything in the refrigerator up until right before we make it because we want it as cold as possible. Because what we're going to be doing is creating layers. There's going to be a red layer on the bottom, a white layer in the middle, and a blue layer on top. And of course, once you mix it up and drink it, you know, it's all going to fuse together. But, you know, if you want something kind of like visually appealing and patriotic, you know, then we have to keep things pretty cold, and so that there's a nice separation with them before we indulge. And it's going to be really tasty too. So what I have out on the counter right now is just my measuring cups, a measuring spoon. Going to need some sugar, didn't have to refrigerate that. And a couple of glasses, just in case somebody else would like to indulge with me in this iced tea. And I have brewed some tea ahead of time because yes, we are going to be utilizing tea, but we're also going to be utilizing fresh fruit. And the fresh fruit is going to help with the density of the layers and kind of like helping to separate them. So I'm using fresh strawberries, which came courtesy of my friend Heather, who visited with her husband yesterday. Hey, Heather. I know she's probably absolutely exhausted. Her and her husband have been doing a lot of traveling. So hopefully she's actually resting right now. As Siren says, I had a fun day Friday. Well, that is fabulous. Do fill us in. What did you do for your fun day on Friday? But yeah, so Heather had made a really wonderful drink for PJ, or sorry, for Riley and for his sister. And we would have had our other friend, but I don't think she knew that we had friends over. So, so she had used, let's see, champagne and sparkling cider and fresh raspberries and fresh strawberries. And she kind of like mixed it all together. And it was this pink fruity drink. And she just kind of let it infuse for a little while. It was so freaking delicious. So yay, I'm glad I took a picture. It'll last longer. But yeah, it was a really nice little bubbly, refreshing drink, especially because it's been pretty warm. And from what I hear, it's been pretty warm all over the Northern Hemisphere. I know the Southern Hemisphere is probably pretty cold right now, but I have friends in the Netherlands who are just like, melting. And I have friends, across the US or melting friends in, different parts of like the islands, or just like, no, we're not moving right now. People in Italy are like, because I know a lot of European countries and stuff don't really have what we consider air conditioning, because it doesn't really get that hot usually in certain parts of the world. So they don't have, AC. They just have like fans, the little ventiladoras just blowing air, and they're just like, ugh. So I feel for you guys. I'm so sorry it's warm. Can't control the weather, although I know there are people who are trying to do that, and perhaps that's why it is so hot. But yeah, we've had a little bit of a heat wave here in the White Mountains, and I'm just like, I don't know, my blood's gotten too thick up here, so I I can't deal with the heat so well anymore. Okay, so Siren said, I had a massive shopping spree. 6 Oracle decks, 7 books, 2 dresses, and a pair of pants and a skirt, plus lunch at Culver's. Wow, you had yourself a big day. I mean, I second Culver's. Culver's makes some good food. Mostly, I am interested in the fish and chips. It's one of my go-to comfort foods. That and bean and cheese burritos. And bean and cheese burritos is what I had last night. So, okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to drink from. I'll drink from probably the one that has my initial on it, the tea. So, okay, so I'll take the lid off of that one. And what I want to do first is make a puree using the fresh fruit, but I also went ahead and I had made a vanilla simple syrup. So to make simple syrup, it's just even parts, basically water, sugar. You don't want to use that much because otherwise you'll have a ginormous amount of simple syrup. And I used, it was like a heaping half a tablespoon of vanilla once it like cooled down a little bit so it didn't burn off the vanilla. Just mix that up and it should be good in the refrigerator for a couple of weeks. So if you're looking for a little way to, sweeten your coffee, sweeten your tea, sweeten, yogurt and stuff like that, you don't have to use refined sugar. You could use agave nectar. You could use honey. You could use, raw sugar, which is really delicious too, before all the molasses gets taken out. So, whatever your sugar preference, just mix that in with water, equal parts. Bring it to a simmer, not a boil, but a little simmer on the stove. And once it starts to simmer and it's fully dissolved, all the sugar's fully dissolved and it's clear, take it off the heat and then throw in a little bit of whatever you want to flavor it with. Maybe you don't want to use vanilla. Maybe you want to use almond. Maybe you want to use strawberry, or, that's totally up to you. You guys have fun with it. But I chose vanilla. I thought vanilla would go well with strawberry and ultimately blueberry and milk and stuff. So there you go. Let's see. Siren says, oh, and my new flash drive for more PC memory storage. I had their double bacon butter burger with a mini strawberry shake. Ooh, as we're talking about strawberries, that sounds absolutely delicious. I have actually some memory that is waiting to go into my computer that is slowly turning into a dinosaur. One day it'll go in and it'll be lightning speed-ish for a little while. Okay. So let's go ahead and grab those strawberries because they've been just sitting in the refrigerator for a little bit. So let me grab those. I'm not going to grab everything out of the fridge. I want to keep it cold right up until the last minute because things are going to melt fast. Okay. So we have our strawberries and I'm going to just chop up 1 cup of strawberries. I have my little canister here. This goes out into the compost, aka Oscar. Gotta feed Oscar. Okay, so I have my blender here. Let's pull the camera down so you guys see what I'm working with, see what's happening. Hey, Costalini's here. He says, howdy, what's up? Siren saying hello to him, and she went mint, strawberry, peppermint. All of those are nice, cooling flavors for the summer. And interesting, you mentioned peppermint because today I'm going to be talking about spearmint, actually, for our herb of the week. And spearmint grows wild right out in front of our garage, actually. And it's stuff in the mint family, you know, whether it's, you know, mint or peppermint or spearmint or catnip or they're all very refreshing and cooling. And strawberry, I mean, you can't get much more summery than summer strawberries. I have a little strawberry plant. It's not producing any strawberries yet, but perhaps before the end of the season, maybe get a few strawberries. All right, so again, just chopping these up before I throw them in the blender here. We're going to make a little puree. Plus, I'm just going to chop a few little strawberries because I want this drink to be not just a drink, but one where I can actually eat the fruit too, so that you get the benefits of strawberry and blueberry. All their antioxidants, all those vitamins, all that good stuff. And strawberry especially, blueberry too, but strawberry especially, helping you to absorb the water that you're drinking, helping you to stay hydrated, all of that good stuff. Okay, so here we go. We have 1 cup of strawberries. In the blender you go. Boom, boom. Oops, one more. I'll probably just, I'm going to do like one strawberry for each glass, just kind of chop it up to put it in at the bottom. Something to munch on when the drink is all finished. Okay, okay. That's good for one of the glasses. Boop, boop. That looks pretty good. Oscar the compost is going to be very happy. This will be for the other glass. Oh, that's kind of a big piece. Kind of chop that up a little bit. Maybe that one too. Kind of want little pieces. There we go. That'll be nice. Okay, so let's take this, put it over yonder. We'll rinse out. Siren says Culver's lets you create your own shake. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I haven't had a shake from them in a while. Ooh, maybe we'll do that sometime soon. And she said you actually said my herb a couple weeks ago was part of the mint family, skullcap. Oh yeah, hey! And I guess mint is still helping us. Totally. I mean, all of our herbal allies have multiple ways in which they can aid us, but perhaps because where I live, mint is in season. And so I feel that even more so, it's definitely aiding us in that department. Okay, back into the refrigerator. These strawberries go. And out is going to come my red portion of my tea that I had made ahead of time. And I cold brewed it because I used hibiscus, because hibiscus always creates such a lovely reddish pinkish color. And I did a cold brew because it helps to bring out more of the sweet floral notes of hibiscus rather than the more astringent tasting bitter notes when you do a hot brew. So I did this in cold brew. Oh, there we go. I dropped my strainer in there. But anyway, there's a little kitty cat strainer. So I actually put hibiscus in there. And what else did I use? I used rose and a little bit of strawberry leaf since, hey, we're using strawberry. And strawberry leaf actually has more of the vitamins and antioxidants than the actual fruit itself. So I figured if I'm going to make a tasty drink, I also want to make sure it's a little bit at least on the healthy side. Okay, so I'm going to give this a little swirl before I take the strainer out. Doot, 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 doot. Ooh, there's a lot to drain out of this strainer. Okay. Fabulous. This other little measuring cup here, this was the simple syrup that I made ahead of time. I made just over 3/4 of a cup of simple syrup. So I'm only going to be using 2 tablespoons. So that leaves a lot of simple syrup for other things. I don't know, adding it to, like I said, you can add it to like sweets that you're making. You can add it to bread. You can add it to yogurt. You can add it to your milk. You can, whatever you want to sweeten with sugary vanilla, that's what you can do. All right. So I am also going to put into this blender here 1/4 cup of sugar. Doesn't have to be refined sugar. If you want a healthier option of sugar, by all means, go ahead. I just feel that this blends a little easier. Okay, we'll just rinse that off. Fabulous. Siren says, have you been affected by the recent fires lately? I have not, although I was listening to my friend Heather and her husband talk about how it's affecting the folks in Utah, just because, where she lives, she says they're surrounded by all these, giant they're kind of like in this big canyon, really, and surrounded by all these mountains. And so all the fires are kind of on the outskirts, and it has all this smoke kind of pouring into the center. So the air quality has been really bad where she's living, and so everybody's been kind of having to stay indoors. So, but this happens usually around this time, summertime, when it gets really dry. And so some of these fires are caused by humans, some of them are nature created. But when they are created by nature, having a forest fire is actually beneficial for the forest. It helps to reseed and replant stronger, healthier trees. It helps the forest floor with the ash of the trees that have burned down. I know it's sad when, animals get caught up in that, but ultimately, overall, it's how the forest replenishes itself. It's how it grows stronger, lasts longer, is through the forest fires. And so, I could say there's a silver lining, with those fires. Okay, so I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons of simple syrup. See, that leaves me like a lot of simple syrup to do whatever we got to do. Make things nice and sweet and vanilla-y. Okay, I'm going to put that back into the fridge. And now I'm going to take my tea. And you don't have to use the red tea if you can just use water if you want, but I want to keep with the red color. I want it to be as red as possible with the strawberries and everything. So I'm going to do a 1/2 cup of my hibiscus, rose, and strawberry leaf tea, my cold brew tea. I'm going to pour that in like so. And I will put my tea back in the fridge. Maybe I'll just drink that later. Might as well. So let's go ahead and put that back in the fridge. All right, so we're going to puree that. Ta-da! Okay. All right. Plug your ears. Okay, let's take the top off of this. We're going to do both here. Okay. And nice. All right. So you're going to get a puree that's nice and liquidy, just like this. So it's nice and slurpable. As Siren said, you said roses, and one of the decks I got was Oracle of the Roses by Sherilyn Darcy. Oh, I have that deck. It's very beautiful. All right. Since everybody's going to have a different sized glass, I can't really give you an exact measurement of how much to put at the bottom, but I'm going to put maybe if we were to divide this into threes, like maybe a third of the way up the glass. Okay. Same for this glass. A third. Okay. Maybe somebody will come and drink the rest of that. That's quite delicious, actually. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put my strawberries in here. Hold on. Got like a leaf or something stuck in there. I don't want a leaf in my tea. Other than the strawberry leaf that I infused, but we want to eliminate choking hazards. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put some strawberries in. Okay, and strawberries into the other one. Okay, we're effectively done with this knife. I mean, I guess we can give it a swirl. Nice. Okay, here we go. We're going to have to work quickly but slow. And here's what I mean. Okay, since we want this to be all Insta worthy or whatever the heck, if you guys want to take pictures and, you know, make it all kinds of cool before you get to drinking it, we're going to fill this up with as much crushed ice as possible, because the ice is going to help create that barrier between the three layers. Then, since that's the quick part, the slow part is when we're actually pouring the liquids in. So if I'm just going to straight pour the milk in as fast as possible, it's going to push past the ice layer and it's just going to go right into the bottom and it's just going to start mixing. So you want to go slow. So pour the milk in slowly. I would suggest a thicker type of milk. So whole milk or oat milk, coconut milk, if you want to add a little tropical twist to it. You can add almond milk. Almond milk's a little thinner. And you know, and so is like 2% and skim milk and all that stuff. So I would maybe stick with whole milk if you can drink it. So pour it in nice and slow. Again, another third of the way up. And then we're going to put in our blueberries. And after that, we're going to pour in the blue tea, which I have made with butterfly pea flower, since that creates such a beautiful blue color. And then we'll see how it turns out. We'll see how it looks. Siren says, you don't read tea leaves. You know, I used to back in the day. But I don't know. It's more just having a chat with my herbal allies rather than trying to read the leaves. But I know that there are people that do that. Okay, so you know what? I'm just going to take these right over to the freezer, and I'm going to throw some ice in. Okay, remember you want lots of ice. And crushed ice is better so that there's less gaps. Achoo! Bless me. Ooh, okay. Yummy. Okay. So, see, that's a lot of ice. Okay, next one is going to have a lot of ice. Get this nice and icy. Good thing I filled up our ice. Sort of. Maybe a little bit more ice. Yes. Okay. This one also has a lot of ice. Okay, so now I'm just going to work a little bit more quickly, but again, we want to pour slowly. So let me go get the milk. So I'm using raw cow's milk. And this milk's a little bit older not too old to drink, but just older, and that it's developed more cream in it. So it's creamier, it's thicker. Okay, here we go. For the pour. Oh, maybe I won't tilt it. Okay. We're just gonna slowly pour a third of the way. Oh my God. Slow. Also, the reason for putting the simple syrup in the puree was that it helps to create a more dense layer. So it stays at the bottom and doesn't try to float to the top. Oh my gosh. It's looking so freaking cool, you guys. I don't know. I don't want to tilt them and like mess it up, but look at those layers. Okay. Let me go get the blueberries and the blue tea. Okay. There's our butterfly pea flower. Here's our blueberries. Okay, we have our blueberries. We have our butterfly pea flower. It's so blue. It's so blue. It's been infusing for a hot minute. Okay, the blueberries are also going to help slow down the mixing of the blue tea. If you wanted to make this more adult beveragey and you want to make it more alcoholic, you could put a shot of vodka into the blue layer, and actually the vodka would help to lighten that layer so it continues to float to the top. Plus, you have some yummy blueberries to eat. How yummy is that? Mm-hmm. Maybe one more little blueberry over here. Oh, maybe this blueberry. He's a better looking blueberry. Oop. All right, let's take this strainer out. And slowly, slowly pour this at the top. My gosh, that looks so freaking cool. I'm trying to be so slow. Get a little bit more in here. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. Hold on. I got to bring you guys down so you can see what's occurred before it starts mixing. The effect doesn't last long, but check that out. Red, white, and blue, y'all. Plus, you have some strawberries to munch on, some cool strawberries, some cool blueberries. So there you go. Pretty easy to make. And it's going to taste delicious. And it gets to be patriotic for those of you in the States. You know what I thought was really cool while I put these away? When I was singing in the opera and I had the opportunity to travel out to Italy for 3 weeks, I was going to be in Italy during the 4th of July. And the other Americans that I was with were saying, well, how are we going to celebrate the 4th of July in a foreign country? How are we going to celebrate America's Independence Day? And so we thought, well, maybe we'll just go out and see where we can score a burger in Italy, or maybe we'll eat some like red, white, and blue something, pasta or something like that. And so we went out on the town. We were in Viterbo, and when we went out, we started hearing all this music, and we realized we're listening to like all kinds of like, it was in English, and it was all this like America music. We're like, what the heck? In the town, hundreds of people, basically it was almost everybody from the town of Viterbo, is in freaking red, white, and blue. They have American flags like painted on their cheeks. They're running around. There's dudes in like American flag boxer shorts that was just like running through the town, just like, oh, America. And it was like, we were like, what is going on? Like, the Italians were having so much fun celebrating America's Independence Day. There was fireworks, there was street performers, there were shows going on. And then, when we were walking around, some of the people I was with, they pegged them as being American. I had more trouble being considered American. I guess they thought I was like from Spain or Greece, or that I was like from a different part of Italy or something. But when they found out we were American, they were like, yay, America. It was just like, it was just so freaking cool. So yeah, we got to party in Italy and celebrate Independence Day. Okay, so I just thought that was a fun side story. All right, so I'm going to try to figure out how to stick my straw in here. I can't really put the lids on because I overflowed it with blueberry. Oops, blueberry down. Okay, it's going to start mixing. Hold on. That's really good. Can I even get my straw in here with, there we go. I had to put the straw in on the side. Yummies. Oh my gosh. I just hit the strawberry layer at the bottom. Man. Okay. I'm going to try to get the straw on the other one. I'm going to pass this to Riley and see if he wants any. Okay. This one will be Riley's. I'm going to pass it to him. I'll be right back. Don't touch that dial, as they say.
Thanks, honey.
You're welcome. Man, it looks so pretty. I'll have to make another one later so I can actually like take a picture. It'll last longer. Okay. All right, guys. Let's head out to the living room. Hold on. Let me go back. I have missed some comments. Hey, Venetian Rose is here. What's up, Heather? She said, hey, you should be sleeping, my friend. Oh my goodness, you've had quite the week. Siren saying hello to Heather. Heather said, have internet connection at the moment. We'll see how long it lasts. Lilith is here. Says newsletter is scheduled to be sent out first thing on the 1st. You heard that right, you guys, because of Lilith and her awesomeness aiding me in getting that newsletter out to you guys. You guys could sign up for that newsletter. Again, that link is down below. Remember, I don't play a spam game. So if you want some good newsletter goodness, and then my newsletter is called Written in the Bark, then, go check it out. So thank you, Lilith. Also somebody who has had quite the week. So definitely lots of just, I don't know, release for many of us, and lots of sleepy. I've been so sleepy lately. I've taken more naps than I have since like I was a teenager. Like I used to come home from school and track practice, or when I played basketball or volleyball or tennis, and it was like I'd come home and just like face plant, on my bed. And I've felt like that lately. And from what I've heard, the Schumann resonance, and I always have to be careful how I say it, because sometimes I almost say the Schumann residence. No, we're not knocking on his door. But the Schumann resonance has been like off the charts. People have been feeling extreme emotions of sadness and anger and release and over crazy joy. Like, some people have been like overly stimulated. Some people have been lethargic and tired. Hello. And so I know that emotions are all over the place. There's also lots of changes going on right now. Also, the physical earth is feeling it with the earthquakes going on, the volcanoes that have been going on and erupting. So just lots of stuff going on. So if you've been really feeling it, please take the time for some self-care. Take a nap if you need to. Go punch a punching bag if you need to. Go scream into the forest or into a pillow if appropriate, So just want to put that out there just in case people have been going through it. Let's see. Lilith says that she sent a preview. Thank you so much, my friend. Mwah. Costolini says, is that illegal cow's milk and unregistered garden? Yes. I too love to live dangerously. Lewis says, also, does raw milk need to be boiled first? I found a local tap. It does not. Some people are like, it does. So it takes out all the impurities, but I think it takes out a lot of its natural vitamins and things like that that would be disturbed by the heat. And I'm not dead yet unless I'm a ghost talking to you guys doing a live chat. And I've been drinking cow's milk for a while, so I'm okay. And also the Amish have been drinking cow's milk forever, so, and they're not dead yet. So Costolini says, no, Lil, it doesn't. More of a political topic. As long as the cow was healthy and the milk was tapped in a clean way, you can drink it. But you might get an upset stomach and poop yourself if your gut has never been exposed to that bacteria before. She said, okay, wild. Can I hold you accountable if I drop down unalived? Costolini said the whole reason people buy raw milk is because the government usually forces it to be pasteurized, meaning heated up, which kills the bacteria. And Lilith says, sounds perfect. And he said, I mean, you're in the UK. What are they going to send the little cops with the bicycle helmets and Harry Potter wands to get me? I don't want to go to Azkaban. Oh, wow. That's awesome. Heather was saying, ooh, yummy. And Lilith says, I'll just haunt you from the other side. He's like, ooh, you're welcome to do so. Saren was saying, super awesome. Lilith says, fun. The bombardment of the blue yonis. The blue yonis live. Maybe they'll no longer be so blue because we're laughing so hard. Or maybe they're blue because they laughed too hard. Siren says, do you want to know the other 5 decks I got aside from the Oracle of Roses? Sure. Do tell. Costelina says, ooh, that's freedom tea. And Lilith says, the real question is if you want her to know, and if so, go ahead and tell us. And Siren said, Beyond Lemuria. Oh, I had that one. Healing Waters by Rebecca Campbell. Got that one. Herbal Astrology. I got that one too. Luminous Woman. I've heard of that one. And Oracle of the Vampire Fae. Ooh, Tess Whitehurst. She has some beautiful, beautiful decks. Liz says, this week has been no joke for real skis. And Siren said, Luminous Woman. Sorry, mistype. Hey, Hundwander is here. It says, raw milk is the best. Hoonwander has also been hitting up the raw sheep's milk. That's pretty tasty as well, I will say. Siren saying hello to Hundwanderer. Okay, you guys, let's go hit up the room of the living. Okay, actually, let me just wipe off the red strawberry juices from the cutting board. And you might notice that I tend to always try to use a wooden cutting board. That is because I'm just not too cool with much of plastic anything these days. So I'd rather not get those microplastics in my food skis. Okay, all right. Let's take you guys and take my Murica tea. And let's head out to the living room. That's so freaking delicious. Oh, look, it's a puppy dog. It's starting to mix with the milk. Oh, it's so creamy good. Okay. I'm sorry for the tripod noise. I'm setting you guys up. All right, let me go get my laptop. I'll be right back so I can read what you guys are writing. Siren says, and one last thing. Guess where I'm going in October? I don't know. Where are you headed to? And Costalina says, a thief stole the plates off my car the other night. What the heck? Why do they keep messing with your automobile, man? Can't people just like not be thieves? Stop jacking other people's stuff. Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to plug in the laptop. Okay. Moving my blinky off to the side. Here we are. Okay, let's move these books to the side. Put you guys there. Costalina says, I took that as an opportunity to get those custom "Don't Tread on Me" plates with the plate number "I love debt." Wow. Lilith says, the Chronicles of Costalini continue. Dude, you got to start writing all of this stuff down. I'm serious. One day it's either going to be a movie, a book, a sitcom. But I think you need to start writing down your life's experiences. You could actually make money off it someday. Hoon Wanderer says, hi, Vader. Oh, hey, Siren's going to Tulsa for a concert. Nice. Who are you off to go see in Tulsa? What concert? And Lilith says, the amount of plot twists is wild. It is. And Siren says, AFI is performing October 25th at Kane's Ballroom. Oh, wow. You know what? I haven't heard of AFI since, for a while. I mean, I remember when they were super big when I was in college. They got a few hits that I really dig. Okay, so we have our freedom tea back here. I'm gonna go ahead and light our candle. I guess, do we call it a freedom candle? Well, go ahead and light that candle. We'll light some incense, and I have my talking stick here because I said that there was a tie in the YouTube poll for what you guys wanted during today's live chat. And first was to make our cool patriotic tea. And the second was to learn about Native Americans and their involvement in the American Revolutionary War. So it's not something that's talked about much in the public education system. Usually it's like, oh, where there was some British and the Americans had or the American colonists, the people who are in North America, what is now the United States, had disagreements with the crown. And then there was something like, throwing a bunch of tea in the ocean because they didn't like how high the tea was priced, and bam, there was a Revolutionary War. Okay, it's a lot more than that. And where the colonists lived, this land already had people on it, the Native Americans. So there was involvement in it, and it's got lots of twists and turns. I'm not going to go through an entire history textbook with you guys, but I'm going to give you kind of like the highlights, just maybe some of the things that aren't mentioned in school. And of course, we know why that is, because who controls the education system? But anywho, Lilith says, loving your headdress. Thank you. I actually got this for my birthday from Riley's sister. And she asked about it today. She was like, hey, did anybody talk about your feathers today? Well, Lilith just did. Thank you. I will let her know. Siren says they've been a band since 91, but their first album, Answer That and Stay Fashionable, was 1995 since the band was still in college. Wow. And Lois says, wait, they brew a large salty sea? Yes, the salty sea. It's so salty. Okay, I have notes here with me because I want to make sure that if I say certain dates or I talk about certain acts and things I just want to make sure that I'm right. I try to be as correct as possible, but of course, always double check anything that I say. Always do your own research. Don't look at me as the end all be all. But I do have my talking stick here today, because in Native tradition, in many tribes, the talking stick is somebody who has the floor and is able to discuss their ideas, opinions, or whatever story it is that they have to convey. Also, I do want to show this bracelet here, this beautiful silver bracelet. I got it yesterday. Riley actually got it for me. And this is the storyteller's bracelet. So let me show you a quick little something. I thought it was appropriate since I'm technically going to be telling a story. It's more of a historical story, but a story. Down at the bottom of the bracelet, you see those symbols. It's called the stairs or the steps, and I used to see that symbol kind of around in my nana's house when I was growing up. Saw it on some of her clothes. I saw it on a blanket that she had. I saw it in some artwork, kind of mixed in with like other features from like Mexico. But anyway, so these are the steps. In the middle here, you have hearts, but they kind of look like eyes. So it's like the eyes of love, always watching. The eye of the creator. The creator is love. But it's not the warm and fuzzy Valentine's Day love that normally we've come to associate with that word. But love of, as in creation, power, all of that. Okay, off to the side here, on the side, we have the sun. So the illumination, speaking of truth, of the sun. And then these kind of waves that you see up top, these are called the Waverleys in many Native American traditions. So very cool. I thought I would just show that to you guys and wear it as I tell our little story today. Okay. Siren says the song you're thinking, Tara, is probably Miss Murder from the 2006 album December Underground. I was 12 at the time. Oh, wow. I was 25. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's get into it. Before we do, I first want to say a big thank you. Thank you to everybody who hangs out with me during these live chats. Thank you to Lilith, I wouldn't have the beautiful website that I have and the amazing newsletter that comes out, on the first of every month without Lilith. So thank you, thank you. Thank you to my mighty moderators, the ones that wield the wrench of destiny. One of the main moderators being Riley. And YouTube members, you know who they are because they have a little colored wolf head next to their name, like Costalini. But also thank you to Jonathan Cleese and Nancy from Macron's Intuition. I have one brand new YouTube member, and their name is Chain Grain Rainbow Lotus 496. So thank you so much for joining. And for my patrons, thank you, patrons. Thank you to Adrian and Casey Gritter, Joel, Brandy, Brian, Lily, Crystal, Easy Does It, Dana, and Ashley. Mwah! Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see. Lilith says, you've done well, Riley. And Siren says, agreed, Lilith. Riley says, thanks. I'm the lucky one. Lilith says, agreed. And Siren says, of course, it could be a different song. Do you remember anything specific? The name of the song eludes me, but I know it wasn't Miss Murder. That came later. But when I remember it, I shall let you know. Okay, let's grab the talking stick. The incense is going. You guys can't see the full talking stick. It's really tall. There's a roe deer head up at the top. But anywho, so this is joining me while I tell our story. Okay. And a little sip from our freedom tea. Mm. Mm. That is so cool and refreshing. I dig it. Okay, I've kind of numbered things so that they're in order here. Okay, so first we just want to go over kind of a brief outline, and then we'll get into some of the details of how the natives aided in the Patriots basically winning that Revolutionary War so that we could become our own sovereign nation, so that we could be freed from the British crown. Afterwards, we'll go into, first of all, what were the British doing in North America anyway? How did all these Brits get here, all these colonists? And why was there a revolution? Were the native peoples, which there were many nations, like basically 80 different nations, were they all on the British side? Were they on the side of the Patriots, aka the Americans, or were they somewhere in between? What was their reasoning for helping? Did they see as any of them being like the good guy or the bad guy? So we'll dive into all of that. Okay. Let's see. Lilith says they call that a stick. It's almost tree sized. This is my tree sized stick. Yes, my little talking stick. And Siren says it's more of a staff. It kind of is, but we just kind of call it the talking stick because it could actually be of various sizes. It could be something very small or it could be something very tall. But yeah. Costalini says Lilith is about to get arrested just for listening to this. Lilith's like, I'm innocent. Costalini says, no. You're guilty of treason against the crown now. You are against, oh gosh, what the heck was his name? King George III. Okay. So, Native Americans helped the Patriots win the Revolutionary War, yes, but primarily it was because they provided vital military intelligence to the Americans. We'll call them the Americans, although, came from Britain. And I do want to say, people are like, so who were they just British, or like who were these people that came over from Britain? So they were kind of a mixture of Welsh, Irish, Scottish, and Irish. So, and at the time when they came over, most of them, not all, but most of them were pretty proud to be British, but feelings about that changed. So anyway, like I said, we'll get into that. Okay. Many of the natives acted as elite scouts, so kind of going out and seeing like what the British were up to and then reporting back to the Americans. I remember that one of the great generals at the time was George Washington, but kind of when we're hearkening back in history, he's only a teenager at the time when he has his first encounter with the native peoples. Okay. Also, teaching the Continental Army essential guerrilla warfare tactics. Now, this is something that the British Army was not aware of because they had a very staunch and very rigid way of winning their wars. Remember that Britain, the crown was a powerhouse at the time, basically wanted to take over the world. But there were other countries as well, different peoples that wanted to take over the world. I mean, even before the British, there were different peoples from Africa that were looking to take over the world. And Africa was a people not to mess with, because they basically just like took over and won over whatever country they found themselves in. Later on, it became Britain. Then we had Spain. Then we had France. So when it comes to peoples conquering other peoples, we've seen it in so many cultures around the world. Even part of my heritage comes from the Philippines. Even in there, before even the Spanish had arrived, there was qualms and conflicts among the Filipinos, and and everybody was fighting for land. Even among the Native Americans in North America and in South America, there was skirmishes among the various nations. It may have looked differently how those skirmishes took place, because there wasn't gunfire yet, but there was, land disputes over like how much power and who was allowed to be the nation in this area. So I guess we could say that awful things and atrocities have happened within every culture. Nobody is innocent. Does that mean that it's okay what one group has done to another group just because something similar like that happened to them at one period in time? Of course not. The whole point of learning about history is so that we don't repeat it. So we say, okay, well, that sucked. What happened to those people? What happened to our people? That sucked. Let's not do that again. Let's find a different way of settling our differences and maybe putting our egos in check and not becoming so greedy. This world is big enough for everyone, contrary to what the World Economic Forum would like to say. Okay. While indigenous nations were divided, and many remained neutral or allied with the British, those who sided with the Americans were instrumental and pivotal in their campaigns. And so the Native Americans, many of the tribes that kind of had a chance to view the colonists, because the colonists weren't all over the United States yet. I mean, it wasn't the United States yet. It was just on North America. So they weren't all over the place yet. So many of the natives haven't even met some of the colonists. So they had really no opinion one way or another. Some people had some really good dealings with the colonists. And so they were like, hey, these guys they're okay. They're trying to learn our ways. We want to learn their ways. Like, they're good friends. Like, let's do business together. And some of them were like, heck no, the way they've treated us, and especially the fur traders coming over from Britain. We want these people off our continent, basically, like, off our land, get out of here, go back to where you came from, because you guys are treating us like crap. But for the most part, many of the chiefs and the leaders were considered what was going on between the colonists and what was going on with the crown as basically like a father and their children. That's like, this is like a family dispute. They're having issues with each other. Let them fight it out. But some of the natives were like, yeah, but if we let them fight it out, that somehow that affects us, because they're basically fighting over this land that is ours. So, let's kind of pay attention to what's going on here. Why do the British want, this so badly? Why do the colonists want to be here so badly? Why don't they want to go back to Britain? Like, let's figure out what's really going on here. So, although many tried to remain neutral, it was really hard to do during this time. Okay, so guerrilla warfare. So tribes such as the Catawba and the Oneida taught colonial militias. I remember a militia is the people. Some people kind of forget that in the Second Amendment. They're like, the militia is the United States military. No, it's not. Militia was the people. How to fight in the woods, use cover like the trees instead of standing in rigid European lines, which is what the British would do, and conduct surprise raids, so catch them off guard. There were crucial scouts and guides. So the Oneida warriors played a critical role in gathering intelligence, preventing British ambushes, and they were also really good at preventing the British from intercepting supply lines for General George Washington's army at Valley Forge. Also, they provided vital provisions, because remember, these people, when they came over to America, they didn't, like, this is a new environment. It's, if you've ever been to England, Britain, and you compare and contrast, like, different parts of the United States with kind of the weather and the topography of Britain. It's a different type of food that can be grown here. It's a different type of weather patterns depending on the state that you're in. And so the people had to learn, like, how are we going to stay fed during this time while we're at war with basically the country that we've come from, where we've learned how to do X, Y, and Z. They're also providing our food. And obviously they're going to cut off our food if we're going to be at war with them. So how can we provide for ourselves? Well, the natives were really instrumental in helping them to do that. Most specifically, helping them to grow native crops, especially like white corn. And actually out in the garden, we're going to go out in the garden later, because I'm going to talk about spearmint, and we have some wild spearmint growing out there. But I am trying to grow the three sisters, which is corn, beans, and squash. I have different types of squash that are starting to pop up. I'm so happy, like zucchini, and hopefully the sugar pumpkins come in, which is technically not a squash. It's sort of in the squash family, but it's a gourd. And I have a couple of different beans. One is pinto beans. The other is not really a bean. It's more of a pea, really. green arrow pea. And then I have two different kinds of corn. So, but anyway, so those would be considered like native crops, that things that kind of grow well in various parts of the United States. And so the natives were helpful with that. Okay, let's see. Let's go back to what you guys were talking about. Lilith says, "My friend, you've presumed my location. A different rain here." And then Siren was talking about the AFI albums. Answer that and Stay Fashionable, 95. Very Proud of You, 96. Shut Your Mouth and Open Your Eyes, 97. Black Sails in the Sunset, 99. The Art of Drowning, 2000. And Sing the Sorrow in 03. Lilith says, where our shape-shifting friend? I know. Well, like I said, many of us have been kind of sleepy, so maybe shapeshifter is taking a little nap ski, which is totally fine. Self-care first. Siren says, and that's just AFI. Davey and Jade also have a side duo, Black Audio. Ooh. Costalina says, beans on toast versus protein-dense buffalo. Oh, man, to think that the buffalo reigned in the millions. Oh, that's so freaking sad. Okay, so both the British and the Americans sought out Native allies, of course, because they both could see that these are very skilled people. They're insightful. They have a lot of knowledge. We want them to be our friend. We want them to be on our side. So many of the Americans were like, hey, those guys across the sea, they suck. Help us. And of course, the British are like, hey, we've done a lot for you guys. Okay, maybe we tried to kill you in the past, but we're your friends. And we totally want you to help fight with us and get rid of those Americans, and you can have your land back. Hey. Of course, that's not really what the British had in mind, but, you know, lies are made during times of war. Okay. Officers in both armies, including General George Washington, had fought in the French and Indian War. And you might be wondering, why is it called the French and Indian War? Well, the British, from their perspective, they saw the natives, the Indians, and the French as the enemy. So that's why they called it the French and Indian War. They were against both of them. But now they're their friend, apparently. They had learned to appreciate the value of native warriors who had acted as scouts for European armies and launched devastating raids on colonial frontiers. Okay, so now, let me see, let's get to part 2, because now we have to go back into history. Okay, what were the British doing in North America anyway? North America consisting of what is now present day the United States. It's also now Mexico and Canada. So why? What's why are you here, bro? So the English colonized North America to establish a strategic geopolitical foothold against rival empires. Again, mostly France and Spain, because Spain had occupied in what is now Florida, and France had different parts of what is now Canada. And these powerhouses, everybody's just trying to take over the world. And so Britain didn't want that to happen. So they figured that just the way that North America is placed, and them being a very, very good seafaring army, that they have, the West Coast, they have the East Coast, they have different ways to getting to where they need to go. And it was, strategically speaking, it was good for them. Also, they were looking for economic opportunities, trade, and resources, because they had figured out that there was money in tobacco. And they had some failed attempts, but they got some people that would back them and help them to grow tobacco. Everybody found out that it was actually, pretty fortuitous to grow tobacco. Everybody wanted to smoke tobacco. Native Americans were smoking tobacco. Like, everybody was smoking tobacco. So they're like, hey, and they found it grew really well in different parts of the U.S. They're like, heck yeah, we're just going to grow it. Again, I keep saying U.S., but it wasn't U.S. at the time. But yeah, so they wanted to use North America's land for many of the things that they wanted, plus the way that they wanted the pelts, the furs of, the animals here, take it back to England. There was just a lot of things that they wanted, some of the resources from here. Plus, Britain was booming. They had all of these people, which meant there was a high poverty rate. There were people that were just starving in the streets. And they said, well, we're going to take you to this new frontier, to this new land, so that you can build a life for yourself. AKA, there's too many freaking people here on this island, so we're going to send you somewhere else. It's basically shipping out the homeless. Oh, wait, do we do that now? Yes. Hello. Happened in California, just ship your homeless problem, to some other state. Well, that's exactly what the British had done. They shipped their problem to basically a different continent. And there were also people that were against the Church of England. They wanted to be able to have religious freedom, hence why that's also built into our Constitution. But people wanted to be able to, I want to believe in this, or I want to express, my belief in God this way. And so those people, like, the Puritans and the Pilgrims, stuff like that, they also, hopped on board so that they can go to this new land and they could be free to, have whatever religion it was they wanted to have. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So now let's continue on. Siren Satan, missing part 2 of the albums. Oh yes, December Underground, Crash Love, Burials, AFI, or the Blood album, Bodies, Silver Bleeds the Black Sun. Wow, they have some interesting titles there. And Costalia says Freeing Persecution. So yes, they didn't like the way things were going in England, some of the people, and so they wanted to hop on those ships and they wanted to start a new life, because that happens. That's why a lot of people go to different countries. They leave their home country. Why a lot of people want to come to the United States. They're like, you know what? I want to start something new. I want to be free. I want to be free to, believe what I want to believe. I want to be free to make a life for myself. And I don't want, some imperial crown saying, this is all you're allowed to be. This is all you're allowed to do. Basically lockstep. They didn't want any of that. And that's kind of the way, why we tried to make our country what we, what the inspiration for creating this country was, is so that people could just be free. Just let us be free. But it seems like the things that we're dealing with now politically are so many different groups and people saying what we should do, what we should all be doing this. You're not allowed to do that. Well, I don't know. That's so many other political things. Okay, so that once the British were here for a while, there were a few wars that took place. One of those was the Anglo-French War of 1763. That's also known as the French and Indian War. It's also known by many other names. Let me see. Let me find that for you guys because it's got a lot of freaking names. Oh, I'll get to it. I'll find it. But anyway, so after that war, Britain was like, okay, we have all our people, that have wanted to be in this new land. They're there. We call them the colonists. They're all there. You guys go do what you want to do. We'll just go back to England. But no, they didn't, liars. They left 10,000 troops here. So you might be wondering, okay, well, the war is over. They're not battling the Native Americans anymore. They're not battling the French. Why the heck do they still have their forces here? And what they said was, well, there's just like these skirmishes between the colonists and the Native Americans when we're really here to just protect the colonists from the savages, and that really wasn't the case. They were trying to protect what they saw is their land, that it belongs to the crown. And so if there is going to be an uprising, we could take out those colonists, basically their own people. We're going to take them out because our army is still there. Or if Spain tries to do something stupid or France comes back, through Quebec or whatever, we're going to take them out. And if the natives ever try rising up, we'll take them out too. But of course, they're not going to tell people this. They say, oh, no, we're here for your protection. Okay, we've heard that many times before. Um, so, uh, Thomas Gage, Commander-in-Chief of the British forces in North America, explained in December of 1765, in a report to Lord Barrington, the Secretary of War at the time, that here's the reasoning they stayed behind. This is what they said. The Redcoats stayed behind because of the, quote, the numerous tribes of savages who joined the French during the war and overrun our frontiers. They were very upset with the Native Americans about this because they thought that they had appeased the natives and that they would just stay out of their business. But the natives were not happy with what a lot of the things the British were doing. So that's why they had sided with the French. Like basically the natives were like, could you just leave us alone? Could you just get off our land? Like, and leave us alone. So we're going to side with whoever we think is within our best interest to help you get off our land. And so they had sided with the French because for the most part, in what we call now the United States, the tribes of this nation just kind of wanted to push people out. So they didn't care if they went to Canada, really, even though there were native tribes obviously in Canada as well. And it just seemed like, well, if we side with the French, this could get the British out. Well, that was a very, very bloody war. In fact, called the 7 Years' War later on. So the 7 Years' War, which officially began in 1756 and ended in 1763. So the Americans call it the French and Indian War because, again, like we said, that's through the perspective of the British that those were their two enemies. So the natives had sided with the French because of the land thieves and the fur traders coming over from Britain. So what had happened was and this wasn't all British people coming over. It's so easy to put a blanket statement like, oh, all the British were bad. No, they're not. Just like in any city you go to, any state you go to, any country you go to, there's going to be some people who are little duty heads, and then there's some people who are really nice people. And so there were some people that got along well with the Native Americans that came over from Britain. There were some people that married Native American women. They, really tried to understand their customs. They kind of like assimilated to Native American culture. Cool beans. They like those people. Like, thank you. Then there were many of the fur traders, and the fur traders who were really trying to get the pelts that the natives, could get from the animals. It was very valuable and very profitable to bring those back to mainland England or Britain. And so they would trick the Native Americans kind of into debt. So basically, they would say, okay, I have these very fancy, like industrial goods to trade with you if you could trade me some of your pelts. And the natives were like, okay, cool. But what they did was they also gave them alcohol. They tried to get the natives nice and drunk so that they couldn't make clear decisions, and tried to get the natives to fight amongst each other. So they would lie, saying, well, that guy, he's trying to do a better price over there. That guy said that you were a piece of shit, so try to just get the natives to fight each other. And while they're too busy fighting each other, they don't realize that they're being stolen from by these British people who were just kind of coming over to, as fur traders. They would also say, okay, I'm going to trade. Basically, you can have your land back in this area if you trade me all of these pelts. And the natives, of course, they want parts of their land back. So yeah, go ahead and sign it. But they were fake. It was fake land deals. So basically, the natives were getting gypped out of like their furs, out of their stuff, and getting nothing in return. So many of them got a really bad taste in their mouth for the British. And so that's why they were like, okay, forget these people, we're siding with the French because they're not nice. They're doing us dirty. Okay. So later on, once all the colonists are there and things like that, the British, who had a very costly war in that French and Indian War, it cost them a lot of money. War is money. War is expensive. Who's going to pay the crown back for that war? The people, of course. That's the way governments like to do it. It's not our money anyway. It's the other people's money. So we like to spend people's money on wars and whatever. So they created something called the Revenue Act. Britain did the Revenue Act of 1764. The Americans called it the Sugar Act, and its primary purpose, like the Stamp Act that had come out, was basically to pay back the money that was lost during the war. And so basically, all these people here that are just trying to make a new life in America, they're trying to understand the peoples that already live here. They're just trying to get by, many of them, you know. And here Britain is, all the way across the sea, across the pond, as they say, trying to get these people to basically work as like slaves. Again, that's what they were trying to escape, was that kind of slave rule, with a monarchy. And you're going to pay back for our war. Well, of course, the Americans thought that was like BS. Like, no, we're not working for you anymore. Like, we've made a life here. We don't want anything to do with Britain. If you want to go have a war, great, but you go pay for it. We're not going to pay for it. So all these different acts, no matter what they said the act was about, what the Stamp Act was about, or what the Sugar Act was about, it was about money. It was about getting money from the average person, the laborer, and sending it back to the crown. Okay. So the natives helped bring about the American Revolution in another way that does not get much attention. And some people were like, okay, well, let's say that North America had zero natives, zero indigenous people. Let's say there was nothing here but animals. They said that then, the British probably still would have had a war with the French, but they probably would have defeated the French, because the French would not have had the native peoples by their side. And so in that case, if the French or the British won that war, then they wouldn't be trying to extract numerous amounts of money from the people that they had sent there, the colonists, and so a lot of things would be thwarted. However, because the Native Americans were there, in a way, if you want to look at like the silver lining of all the atrocities and the loss of land, for the native peoples and things like that, what the natives ended up showing the people that were here trying to make a new life, they showed them what it was like to basically live in an oppressed nature, to live under rule, and how awful it is to live under rule, for somebody to tell you where you can live, how you can live, because it was happening to them. And the colonists could see that. And although there were colonists that were responsible for some of that, because they were, trying to get as much land as possible to make their nice little life for themselves, because they were trying to get away from the crown, they could see, what having basically a ruler tell you how you can live your life, where you can live your life, how awful that is, and how wonderful it is to be free, and to be sovereign and to be your own person. And they saw the natives live that way. And because they were finally able to see an example of that, it was instilled into them that that's what they wanted. And so that's why, I say with, the things that you guys do, you being your own person, always be you. Because people are watching and you don't know. And so you are showing others who might not know, like, how to be. If nobody ever has an example of something different, they don't know that there's something different. If these people who are living under subjugation all the time don't know that there's a way that you could be sovereign, you can live in a peaceful nation, you could have a beautiful mixture of matriarchy and patriarchy, everybody in their roles helping for the good of everyone. If there isn't an example of that, how does anybody know that it exists? Well, because of the Native Americans, the Patriots could see that something like that exists, and we can make something like that for ourselves. Okay, moving on. Let's see. Let me see. Go back. Miss some of your guys' comments. You guys are talking about the AFI albums that Siren sang. That's 6 bands run by one guy. Wow, that's a lot of work. Costalini says, not sure how accurate, but hilarious. Lilith was saying, how many of them are aliens? Oh, I see. Costalini says the whole Mayflower thingy. Oh yeah. That's another another topic for another day. And Costalini says, you're curious about their yoni color? Lewis says the first humans were blue for your information. And Siren is going on about, oh, so many more albums from AFI. And Lewis says, quick call the Texan Authority for the treason against blue yonis. And Costolini says, whew, good thing we introduced 48% of effective tax rates for everyone's safety. It's for your safety. Okay, let me get to part 4. Okay, so now let's go to the Revolutionary Wars. Now we have a little bit. Like I said, I'm not going into like a detailed history lesson with you guys. It's just like a little bit of back reason, like kind of where the British came from, why they were there, why they still had their troops there. It wasn't obviously their whole army, but they still kept a good number of people there, and kind of how the Native Americans were feeling about all of this and why like they chose to help the French, and now why they're choosing to help some of the Americans. Of course, like we said, some of them tried to remain neutral. Some of them sided with the British crown because Britain promised them that I think it was everything west of the Mississippi or something like that, that there was this line, and we promise no colonists will go across this line. You can have your land. That's all the natives wanted. They just wanted to keep their land. Like, okay, cool. So that's why they were siding with Britain. Of course, do any of these people making promises during war ever keep their promises? No, not really. Okay, so 1775, when the Revolutionary War began, more than 250,000 Native Americans lived, east, it wasn't west, it was east of the Mississippi River. They formed more than 80 nations, as I stated earlier, and they spoke dozens of languages and dialects. So when fighting between the British and the revolutionary forces increased in 1776, both sides called on American natives for support. The stakes for Native Americans were very high, as they were worried about their own independence and, of course, their land. Because if all these people are going to come live here, are we going to live in harmony, or are they just going to like kick us off our land, and then where the heck are we supposed to go? So various Native communities and nations chose different strategies. Some tried to remain neutral. As I said, some sided with the British because the British, said, hey, we promise, yeah, you get to keep some of your land. And some allied themselves with the revolutionaries because they saw what the British were doing to them, and they were like, hey, that's pretty jacked up. Like, we know how that feels. Like, hey, we're working with you guys. In doing so, they all hoped to protect their homeland and their way of life. Okay, so oftentimes when you guys see art on the internet of the American Revolution, we always just see basically European versus European, the ones that have become now Americans, and the redcoats, basically, the British. But it was more than that. There was more people involved in that. That's a very narrow view of what went on. That's like excluding all the other people that aided in what became the United States of America. So 95% of the people who participated in the American Revolution were ignored. It wasn't all just European versus European. There was natives that were involved. There were slaves that were involved. There were small farmers that were involved. Women were involved in all various ranks, whether they were poor women, rich women. Everybody was involved in this because it was a big deal. This is a big thing. You're basically, it would be like if in the United States we have a president. If we got so fed up with our government, that's what happened back then. They got fed up with the government, and they were like, we could do better. We got to do something better. And so, to break away, you basically knew that this is going to be bloody. It's not going to be nice. I mean, we'll try to make it nice, but if nobody's agreeing and everybody's, just trying to silence the other, this is going to turn into a war. What happens in war? People die. So these people, women, children, sometimes, that were fighting in this too, slaves, Native Americans, and, the people that were coming over just trying to make a better life for themselves, they knew that they could lose their life, but it wasn't about them. They were thinking about the future. My children, the people that are going to be here after us, we're fighting for that. And so that's something hard, I guess, for us to fathom today. It's like, could we really lay down our life if we were, let's say our government became like a freaking total monarchy, would you be willing to lay down your life knowing that maybe you won't be able to see the day that this becomes, the ideal utopia, but your children or your great grandchildren might? That's what they had in mind. Okay. Let's see. Let me just skip ahead here. Okay, so ordinary Americans were very directly influenced by the actions of the founding fathers and all of the people that I had mentioned. One little known example involves a law Parliament passed some 250 years ago. We're celebrating our 250th birthday as a nation, but this is just a little over 250 years ago. So the Stamp Act took effect on November 1st, 1765, was one of Britain's most famous encroachments on colonial freemen's rights. Its purpose, however, is a little misunderstood, and we kind of went over that. So basically, everything that Britain was doing, it just wanted more and more money. And how can it get more and more money? Is you get it off the backs of the laborers, of the workers. And so they made all these taxes, hence why the freaking tea thing was going on. It's just tax the heck out of everything. We're going to put these laws into place, these bills into place, so they can just give us more money, and there's nothing you can do about it because I'm the freaking king and you're my subject and you do what I say. And these people said, read between the lines, basically. They were like, we're not putting up with that anymore. We're creating our own freaking government. And this is going to be for the people, by the people, not for the monarchy, So a lot of what people nowadays get confused with, like our Bill of Rights, our Constitution, the amendments, those are not to let the people know what their rights are. It's to tell the government, hey, this is what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do, because the people run the show. The people are the government. The people are this nation, not this, big, this big group of people trying to lord over others. That's like exactly what we try to get away from, And then we'll also talk about that the Native Americans had a big influence in our Constitution. So the way you see it written now and the way you see our amendments written and our Bill of Rights comes from the Iroquois Confederacy, actually. And it came from one of their own bills, like how they ran things. And General George Washington, because he had worked alongside the natives, there were times where he was against the natives and he was fighting them. There were times he was fighting with them. He got to learn a lot about them, and he really respected their tactics, because he was a military man. He respected their military tactics, and he also respected the way that they governed themselves. And so when this was brought to like Jefferson and, Benjamin Franklin, and they're all kind of looking this over, they're like, hey, the natives are onto something here. The Iroquois Confederacy was like 6 nations. And they said, they were these 6 nations. Well, the 6th nation came much later in like the late 1700s. But the 5 nations, they had been fighting for years. Like it was bloody because they're fighting over land. They were fighting over a way things were going to be. And they had somehow come to a sort of peace. And they created this constitution of sorts, and they were able to have peace for hundreds of years. And so what now became the Americans, they were like, hey, the Iroquois, they've created something wonderful here. Let's base our own constitution for our brand new country off of what the natives have done. So isn't that kind of cool? All right. Let me skip now ahead. Skipping all around. Think I can skip that and let's go right to number 7, because that's what I was talking about, was the Iroquois Confederacy. So their constitution was called the Great Law of Peace, because remember, it was years and years and years of fighting between these 5 nations, these 5 tribal nations. So the Great Law of Peace is an oral constitution, unlike our written constitution, but much of Native American culture was oral tradition. So their stories, their history, much of it was done orally. And the group, instead of calling it the Iroquois Confederacy, it was actually called the Haudenosaunee. Confederacy, or people of the Longhouse, but later known as the Iroquois Confederacy or the Iroquois League. And it was established between the 12th and the 15th centuries. That's a long time ago. That's way before the English or the European settlers. And it unified 5 original Native American nations: the Mohawk, the Oneida, the Onondaga, the Cayuga, the Seneca, and then later in 1722, that was the one I was trying to remember, the 6th nation was the Tuscarora. And they were unified under a single participatory democracy rooted in consensus, justice, and community welfare. So let me go over the core principles, and you may start to see that there are similarities between their constitution and what we now see as the American Constitution. So the core principles, it was a democratic governance. It established one of the earliest participatory democracies, featuring separation of power. That's in our Constitution. A grand council, checks and balances. That's also what our country is founded on, and a system of consensus decision making. For the role of women, women held significant political power, including the authority to select, advise, and remove male chiefs. Clan mothers act as the foundation of the government. And so there's always been this kind of argument. I guess you can debate it one side or the other. Like some said that Native American tribes, or Native American culture, I should say, was more patriarchal because they would usually have male chiefs. And some said no, it was more matriarchal because everything, your lineage is through the matriarchal line. Well, it was a mixture of the two. I kind of saw it as, as I, read through history and things like that, and just what I know of, like, my own line, that it is pretty balanced for the most part. So you could have a man in charge, you can have but he's selected by the mothers, basically the matriarchal line. If he screws up, matriarchy has the chance to say, hey, buddy, you're out of here. They made sure that everything that's going on, within the nation, or, more small in the tribe, is running smoothly, that everybody is behaving, everybody's, doing what they're supposed to be doing. The men are doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is they're trying to protect, they're trying to feed and clothe and, basically take care of everybody, making sure that all the supplies and everything the women need to care for their children, to care for the communities, is there. So it was this beautiful balanced relationship. And I won't say that like every single nation was like that, but if we're just doing in general, much of the Native American culture was like this. Okay, condolence rituals. It replaced the cycle of revenge-based warfare, because that happened quite a bit before there were any European settlers in the Americas, where, it was like, well, there was a raid on my tribe, and, and I'm now going to do a raid on your tribe, and I'm going to go like take out freaking your women, and I'm going to, go do this. So it was just so bloody. Nobody learns anything. Everybody just winds up dead. So they decided, you know what? This is stupid. Let's stop doing revenge-based warfare, and let's try something different. So they replaced it with ceremonies of grief processing and conflict resolution. Like, let's talk it through. Why are you so pissed with my people? Okay, let's talk about it. You want this land, but we also want this land. Let's talk about it. Because the land, it belongs to all of us, not just one tribe or one nation. Lastly, they also had a tree of peace in there, a central metaphor where weapons of war were buried beneath a great white pine representing strength and unity. It could be akin to when people say they bury the hatchet. People used to literally like bury a hatchet, like like no more fighting between us. So long before the arrival of European settlers, the laws were recorded using intricate patterns of beads woven into wampum belts, and the framework later profoundly influenced the framers of the United States Constitution. So without the help of our Native friends, we wouldn't have been able to separate ourselves from the crown if they didn't show us an example of what freedom looked like, of what sovereignty looked like, of how a nation could run. It wasn't just these savages running around like just with no law, with no order. They very much had a constitution. They very much had an order, and much of what our country is founded on is because of our Native American brethren. And so, yes, it's not perfect. A lot of atrocities have happened, with the original peoples that came before us here. But this is why we talk about history, so that we can say, okay, moving forward, let's see how we can work together. Let's see how we can make this a greater nation. And I know that there are a lot of people that have their opinions about the United States. They say, oh, I love the United States, or I hate the United States, or the United States need to do this or that. But you know what? Compared to a lot of other countries, this is a very young country. We're only about to be 250 years old. When you think about places, which I think that the oldest basically nation is Iran, and the oldest form of government comes from Iran, like 3200 BC or something like that. Compared to that, we're a very young nation. We're still trying to figure it out, how to be better, how to grow, how to help, everybody, within our own country, and be able to help, people in other countries. And so, yes, there's a lot of things that can be worked on, but I think we have a really good foundation, and we can thank our Native American ancestors for helping us with that. So, there we go. I can put my talking stick down. And a little bit more from my freedom tea. Okay. Siren was saying, no, the Black Audio albums are not AFI, the side duo. The first Black Audio album was after AFI's December Underground. My bloodline goes back to the Revolutionary War. Captain William Bradley served under Washington. Wow. Holy cow. That's cool that you can trace it back. Costanelina says there are videos of George Washington driving a Dodge Challenger, scaring off the redcoats. So I feel like a lot has been omitted from the books. What? Actually, I want to go see that. That sounds funny. The Siren says Trump's doing the same thing and worse. He's kicking legit citizens out. Well, I don't, as from what I've seen, I don't think it's people who were born in America or they have their actual citizenship papers that have been kicked out. I know that there were a couple instances in Native Americans. There were some natives that they thought that, because they don't have like citizenship papers. They have tribal cards and things like that. So there were a few errors in that. And that is horrible. But they've been corrected. And so it's not a perfect system, but I understand like what the overall goal, what he's trying to do. Because there are other countries in the world that, just were like, oh, we're not going to be like the United States, and have closed borders. We're going to have open borders and allow everybody over. And in a beautiful world, that would be amazing, that we could just have open borders, and people come in and we are a melting pot. That would be wonderful. But the thing with that is think about just keeping your house open, and that any old schmo can come into your house. And sure, there's probably the majority of people coming into your house. They're going to be good people. They're not going to mess up your stuff. They're not going to try to steal from you. They're not going to try to hurt you. But there's probably going to be some shady characters that are going to come in and take advantage of that system. There's always shady characters trying to take advantage of any system, no matter what it is. And so that's why, with these other countries, they've realized, oh, hey, with letting everybody in, we now find ourselves with problems. There are people that took advantage of that system, and they are messing with the citizens that were born here. They're messing with like our financial system. You're like, whoa, what can we do? How can we fix this? And so our president, seeing what a problem it was in other countries, is like, hey, let's not have that happen in the United States. So he was like, okay, we're closing these borders, and anybody who is undocumented, like let's send them out, not permanently. If you want to come back in, like let's do it the paperwork way. Let's get your papers, filed so that you can become an American citizen. I had students who, back when I was a teacher and I was an EL teacher, had students that were refugees from Afghanistan, from Iraq, and I remember when they had to file those papers and all the steps they had to go through to get their citizenship. And I remember the days like when they were getting their citizenship and they were so freaking happy, they were so proud. I remember that one of my students, he was from Iraq, and he was saying that once he graduated, he wanted to work for the Border Patrol, and I was like, you do? And he was like, yeah, because he says, I know what it took to become a citizen in this country. He says how much knowledge I had to learn, so much history. I had to know like all of the amendments. I had to know the Constitution inside out. Like I have so much knowledge of this country. He says I have so much appreciation for it. Is it perfect? No, no country is perfect, but I can see potential. And he says, so I'm very proud to be in this country, and I'm proud to call myself an American, an Iraqi American. And I was like, well, cool. And he says, and I just want to make sure that all people have a chance to come in like I did. And he says, I don't think it's fair that some people get to pass that system and pass up what I did. He says, how can you have an appreciation if you know nothing about the culture? I had to learn everything about this culture, and now I have an appreciation for it. I have a better understanding. And he says, and I think that people should have that before they come in. So I do see that there could be a lot of error and flaws in how our president is going about trying to see who is a citizen and who is not, but I see the overall idea. So like I said, nothing is perfect. We're working on it though, but I do see the overall idea. Costolini says 250 years and it becomes the most powerful and generally accepted recorded history in the last 80 years. And Siren says, yeah, and our dictator president is ruining. Well, not technically a dictator, because hence from our Native American ancestors helped us to put those checks and balances in. So he can't just like make commands willy-nilly, which a lot of our presidents have done, but they can say all they want. It has to go through the different branches of our government before it gets put into laws or it gets enforced. But again, can we work on things? Sure. And any country that says they are perfect obviously has something to work on. Just like us, we can't say, like I can't walk around and be like, dude, you guys, I am so perfect, because obviously that's a crack of, and I have a lot to work on. We all do as people. And remember that the country is the people. It's not the president. It's not the dictator. It's not the monarchy. It's not the prime minister. Countries are the people. If we want our country to be a better, stronger, more sovereign country, we have to learn that in ourselves. How can I improve myself as one individual human being? Sure. Do I want to help the whole country? Yes. Do I want to help people and the rest of the world? Yes. But I have to work on myself first. And if we all did that, imagine how much better this country would be, how much better the world would be. If we all try to work on ourselves, how can I work on myself and in my little group, my family? And then within that, how can I work with myself, my family, and my friends? How could I do that within a community? How can I do that within a city? How can I do that within a state, within a country, within a continent? You see, so yes, lots of things to work on. We can say all we want about the leaders of any country, but we can't put the blame on them for everything, because we're the people. Remember, the government is not the people. We're the people. That's why we had a Revolutionary War. We're like, you're not the people. You're the monarchy. Don't agree with you, sir. King George III. We want our own thing because we are the people. So, whatever we may feel, about some of the stuff going on, we make the changes. We are the people. We say, so don't let any government fool you into thinking that it's so powerful you don't have a voice, that there's nothing you can do, because that's exactly what the British tried to tell to its subjects. There's nothing you can do. We rule you. You pay us. We tax you however we want. And the people, outnumbering the monarchy of one, said, I don't think so, bro. So let's see. Let's go back here. Costelina says, fun fact, Native Americans with 50% native blood can't be denied entry into the US and Canada. The Jay Treaty of 1794. Ooh, guys are bringing out the history. I like it. Let's do it. This is, it's so brutal. I have 2 engineering degrees, speak English, no criminal history, and to become a citizen, it will take at least 10 years. I remember that with my friend, one of my best friends. She came over from Poland. And originally her thought was, because she had made friends with this guy, they were, buddies, and she was like, hey, I want to become an American citizen. So she wanted to like kind of fast track that. And so she married him. But at the time that she married him, that's when things changed over, instead of people can just like get married and become a citizen or just like, you know, I think we realized that people were again abusing the system. All systems get abused in one form or another, and it ruins it for everybody. But because of the people that abused that system and that were just like marrying people just to marry people so they can become a US citizen, not because they actually were like in love with that person. So my friend, although she really cared for her buddy and eventually fell in love with her buddy, and now that buddy is her husband, she was like, man, I gotta wait 10 years. And he was like, what, are we not gonna be married that long? She's like, no, I'm just saying. It's like, what, 10 years? So it was a few years ago, I remember that she had gotten her citizenship and she was cramming for her citizenship exam. And she was like asking me, hey, Tara, what's the Seventh Amendment? And I was like, huh? Hold on. Let me just, oh yeah, the Seventh Amendment. Costalina says, so yeah, it's annoying seeing people hop the fence. Siren says, what's your nationality, Costalini? And Costalina says, Canadian, British. Siren said, not bad. Um, and that's what I love about America too. A lot of people talk about, America is the melting pot, and it's because of all these different cultures and all these different people that, I believe that we are such a beautiful country. We have so much to offer, but there are ways in coming into somebody's country, not just America, but now that other countries have closed their borders, there's like, I can't just like go to Italy and decide, okay, I'm in Italy now. I'm Italian, you know, take me in. I got to go through a process if I want to become an Italian citizen. I have to go through a process if I want to become a Japanese citizen. I have to go through a process, making sure I'm not just coming in to steal from people or to hurt people, or maybe that I'm just coming in to like, use the system. As like I said, a lot of people like to use systems, but it's not everybody. Of course, not everybody trying to get into the US is like quote unquote bad person. They just want a better life for themselves. Yes, that's understood. But there are a lot of few people out there that ruin it for everybody. Hence why we have to have a system of like, okay, go through it this way. Let's learn who you are. Who are you coming into my home before I allow you into my home? I love having people here over at our house. We've had, my dad, my stepmom, we had my friends, Heather and her husband were here. We have some more people coming over. That's wonderful, but we know who they are, and even if we had the neighbors, we would kind of want to know who they are before we kind of like let them in the house, even though they are our neighbors. And, you know, and if, like I said, if this were a perfect world and nobody had bad intentions and nobody tried to use other people, I would say, heck yeah, have open borders. Like, let's all just be together, like kumbaya. But it's not like that. There's a lot of ego in the world. Ego leads us to do things that are in our own self-interest that doesn't necessarily help our other fellow humans. Costalia says, and it costs over $100,000 for an H-1B right now. That's $10,000 for lawyers, years of waiting time. Whew. And Siren says, I guess I should be relieved I was born in America, but honestly, I hate the government. That's why I don't vote. It's basically choosing the lesser of two evils. Well, that's why, remember, you are the government. We are the government. So when we see that there's, we don't like something, our voices make a difference. We make a difference. It's when we read about the American Revolution, we saw how we made a difference, in that. And I believe there's been cities where like mayors who are just like shisty. Like the people had basically, like you said, the lesser of two evils. Like they had a couple of, clowns, and they were like, who are we going to put into office? They kind of all suck. And so they put in this person, and turns out that person is just like really, really abusing their power and abusing the people. And the people were like, did their research and figured out how to kick that person out of office and do it legally. Use the courts that they used against the people, you start using it against them. And so remember, you can make a difference. And sometimes we feel like, well, I'm just one person. Well, I guarantee you there are other people that feel like you. There is a collective consciousness. We all feel that way. And so if everybody feels a certain way, enough people start feeling a certain way, you can change who's in charge. We can put better candidates. We can become candidates ourselves. Let's see. And of course, it would be nice the day that we don't need leaders and we can just like govern ourselves. But I don't think we're there yet. And see, Siren says, Trump orchestrated the attack on the Capitol and people still voted for him. Well, that's something that's interesting because very specifically, he told the people not to attack the Capitol. Do not attack the Capitol. Peace, peace, be peaceful. A lot of people didn't listen to him. They went down there. Then they found that there were people that were hired to pretend to be the whatever Trump supporters in order to create like upheaval, get the people excited. Like there was actual video footage of like somebody saying, hey, we should attack the Capitol, we should attack them. Right away people were like, dude, like freaking fake, like get this guy out of here. So there were some people that were like trying to rile people up, and depending on like the video footage you watch, it also changes perception. And so I have a hard time just like watching news and being like, oh, that's what happened, because news is so biased. Everybody's got a bias, even if it's considered a good bias. Everybody's got a bias. And so there are some people that were showing, hey, there's video footage of the security guards. They literally just opened the doors to the Capitol, took people on a tour, let them in. And then there were people on the other side of the building who were like, okay, we're going to break the windows and get in, when they could have just gone in the other side where they were literally just letting everybody in. And, so it's depending on what video view you're watching. There's like the view where people were just being let in calmly, peacefully, no breaking of windows, no violence. They were actually getting tours around the Capitol. And then there was a few yahoos where they got all violent and crazy. And they're like, even though Trump was like, dude, no violence, but they did it anyway. And then the news was saying, okay, so Trump, made them be violent. Here, look at this video footage of them being violent. And so, of course, there's going to be two different perceptions. So I always find that fascinating. Like, what side is trying to show what, and how are they trying to make people feel? And in doing this, are they trying to get us to fight amongst ourselves? Like, muy interessante. And unfortunately, the female that was shot and killed during that incident was actually somebody who worked for my school district at the time. And it was like, whoa, what the heck? I don't know. There's so much. There's so much, one side is showing this, another side is showing that. Some say, oh, there's, all these good things happening. No, all these bad things are happening. It's all just perception and being manipulated into that perception. I do not like being manipulated. Like, I want to see all parts of the story. Like, what's your agenda, news outlet? What's your agenda, news outlet? Okay, let me make my own decision, based on, all the things that I see. Because very easily, especially with social media and the short snippets that we get in memes and, in quick like YouTube shorts and stuff like that, it's very easy to take things out of context, no matter what it was, no matter if we're just like seeing cats and dogs fighting or getting along or whatever. It's just a snippet of a bigger picture. And then we make our decisions based on that snippet. Case in point, this brings me up to, okay, so I had a video that went, or not a video, it was a YouTube short that went semi-viral with Riley. And I did not, and I'm never making videos being like, ooh, it's gonna go viral, because really I could care less. But so I he was being goofy, and we were smoking cigars in the garage, and one of the cigars had a hard draw because they had gotten a little bit too much moisture in the humidor, and we had to fix the moisture level in the humidor. So instead of getting a draw tool, well, he had a power drill sitting next to him, and he had a screw. So he decided he was just going to like drill a screw, push a screw into the cigar to create the ultimate draw. And he was like, wow, this smokes fabulously. But I recorded it, and I thought it was funny because he was being silly. So I put that on as a YouTube short. Dude, it got over 600,000 views. And now YouTube has decided it didn't have that many views. And every day it keeps cutting back the number of views it got and the number of comments. And because YouTube, whatever. Anyway, since that was just a snippet in time, people watching it don't know who Riley is. They don't know who I am. They don't know that he smokes cigars or how long he's been smoking cigars. Some people thought it was a hot dog that they were drilling into. It's like everybody's got you got, I think it was like a 20-second video. You got 20 seconds of a snippet. Boom, make a decision. So there are people that are like, man, that guy's a freaking legend. Look at that welder in the back. It wasn't a welder, it was a battery charger. But so they had this perception. Some people were like, man, you need to stop putting screws into hot dogs. Okay, that's another perception. It wasn't a hot dog, it was a cigar. And then there were some people who were like, have you never heard of a draw tool? Maybe you should roll your cigars better. Okay, number one, unless I live in Nicaragua, I can't roll my own cigar. And it was like, people are basing their opinions off of 20 seconds. So take that into account when whatever it is that you see online, whether it's somebody who's all for our president or so against our president, or for immigration or against immigration, or this war or that war, or this bill or that bill, just know that whatever soundbite, whatever video is put there to alter your perception. And so instead of us taking and making an assumption based off that 20 seconds or that 5-minute video or whatever it is, I would say try to get an idea of the whole picture. And I tried to do that with my seniors when their end project used to be debates, and they had to be able to debate both sides of a topic. And so like one of those topics was, the gun laws. And one of the girls was like, I'm so anti-gun. I can't do this because I think that the pro-gunners should all die. And I was like, wow, okay, well, that's a pretty big opinion that you have there, and violent. But I said the purpose of this is so that we don't go in hating people when you leave high school. You have to be able to see both sides of a picture to be able to make a well-rounded, well-educated opinion about something. So I know that you're very anti-gun right now, but you need to look at the other side and try to understand where they're coming from. Because if we go into the world with this attitude where I'm all this and I hate what you believe in, or I hate what you think, or I hate that people, or I hate this guy, or I hate that girl, then we'll never see eye to eye. And we'll always continually be at war with ourselves. And while we're at war with each other, guess who's taking over the world? The people that tried to get us to be at war with each other. So anyway, I thought talking about that YouTube short was like a perfect example, because the comments are wild. I mean, some of them are hilarious, but like some people literally thought that he was playing with his food, that he was drilling into a cigar, into a hot dog. Some people thought that he was some noob that knew absolutely nothing about cigars. Some people thought that he was just somebody trying to destroy a cigar. Some people were going off about cancer that you could get for putting screws into cigars, and he shouldn't do that on a daily basis. They were like, it was interesting. Then there was like cancer topics coming up. Then there was, I don't know, some political, it got weird. And all I did was record somebody being silly with a cigar. Interesting. Okay, let's see. Let's go back here. Costolini says, right to jury trial. Yes. And Siren says, Haiti, for example. I have a friend who came over from Haiti. Lilith says, what are the rules for actual aliens? Well, We'll have to see when they appear, fake or not. Siren said, who knows, Lilith? Costalina says, but you get to vote for a president. In the British system, you do not vote for prime minister. Yes, that's right. They are appointed for you. Lilith says, they just drop in. Notice citizenship needed. Just Costalina says, you indirectly vote for the party and they choose the prime minister. And then they freeze your bank account if you protest. And Siren says, I mean, it's nearly impossible to give birth right now from what I've heard. Really? Well, from what I've heard is there's an issue with women trying to get pregnant. There's like an infertility thing going on. Wonder how that happened. Costalina says, and they have floor crossing. Canada is the first democratic country with a majority government that wasn't elected. Floor crossing is when an elected official decides to change parties after being elected, and now the other party is in charge. I didn't know that. Do like school me on what's going on in Canada, because I know about that much about Canadian government. Costalina says, oh yeah, so you're saying that. And then Lilith says, wild that short went that viral. I know. I'm like, really? That short? Because I've made shorts with flowers, with animals, with talking about herbs. And I'm like, that's the short that goes viral. Not that it's not funny. I think it's kind of funny. But still. Okay. So I said I wanted to take you guys out real quick because I wanted to talk about what Siren was saying, that she had a mint and peppermint and strawberry drink from Culver's. And I was like, well, we're talking about spearmint today. Well, this is spearmint in its dried form, but I said it grows wild right in front of the garage. So I'm going to take you out to take a look-ski at it. But first, let's learn a little bit about it, why we might have spearmint as our herbal ally, why you might want to work with it, or if it doesn't grow wild in your area or you can't have access to it, just tap into that plant or its adjacent cousin, somebody who is in that family that somehow grows in your area, and see like what is spearmint trying to teach us. If the creator put all these herbs and all these animals and everything here to aid us, then why did the creator put spearmint here? How is spearmint going to aid us? So let's learn from it. Okay. This is so good. Ooh, something that also came to mind when I was doing my research on natives and the Revolutionary War is Britain was trying its best to keep the natives and the colonists separate. But here's what they said, and here's what they actually did. So what they were saying was, well, because there's so many skirmishes between the colonists and the Native Americans, that we need to keep these guys separate because they fight too much. But really what it was is, if these two groups of people become friends, we're toast. So let's pretend that the natives are savages and that the colonists are just people just trying to like get along out there, and the savages are hurting them, and we're just trying to keep the peace. No, that wasn't it at all. It was, we need to keep the natives separate from the colonists, because if either group figures out what we're really trying to do here, like, we're up crap creek. Because they're going to band together and they're going to become united, and that's going to suck for us. So think about that when the powers that be, no matter what country we may be in, try to keep the people divided. Like, oh, you don't want to be like, let's say in America, even though I know we have other parties besides Democrat and Republican, those are the two main parties. They'll be like, oh, the Republicans, they're just gun-toting, psycho, redneck, whatever it is they say about Republicans. You don't want to get to know them. You don't want to know their side. You want to hate them. And then, no. Democrats, they're crazy purple-hair people that, are, just trying to destroy this country. You don't want to be friends with them, and you don't want to know, don't understand them. Don't look at that side. Don't just fight amongst each other. And sure, there might be, when we actually put the hate for one another aside for a moment and are like, okay, Well, I could see that there are some things in the Republican Party that need to be worked on, and some things I think are pretty cool. There are some things in the Democratic Party that could be worked on, some things that might be pretty cool. Okay, how can we come together on this instead of how can we just try to outscream each other? Because it goes all the way back, even before the British, even before Native Americans. There's always been divide and conquer, divide and conquer. But now we are not dividing and conquering. We are coming together in spearmint. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about peppermint because spearmint is in the peppermint family. It's a less potent version of peppermint, which makes it a lot better for like culinary things of that nature. Okay, so peppermint is a hybrid of water mint and spearmint, which have similar, though milder, therapeutic properties. So both have this volatile oil, about 1.5%, including menthol, 35 to 55%, menthone, 10 to 40%. That's that cool feeling you get when you eat spearmint or peppermint. Flavonoids, luteolin and menthocide, phenolic acids, and triterpenes. Its key actions are antispasmodic, stimulates sweating, antimicrobial, analgesic, and carminative, meaning it helps if you are experiencing flatulence. Okay, so volatile oil research has shown that the volatile oil is strongly antibacterial. Menthol, a constituent of the oil, is antiseptic, antifungal, cooling, and anesthetic. Anesthetic to the skin, although it is also an irritant, which too much of a good thing, yes, could cause irritation. So, if you just like really start like rubbing peppermint all over your skin, probably going to get an irritation. If you just like start drinking peppermint by the gallons, probably going to have an irritation. The whole plant has an antispasmodic effect on the digestive system. Clinical trials in Denmark and the UK during the 90s point to the herb's value in the treatment of irritable bowel syndrome. Okay, so I wanted to read something else on it. And before I get to that, I also want to put in a side thing. When I was talking about the Revolutionary War and, Britain was doing this or that, I was talking about the crown, not the British people. I think that happens quite often, when we're talking about, like, let's say a country that is at war with another country and we're siding with this country or that country. They remember the people that are fighting each other are the leaders, but they're using the people to fight those wars. So when you say like this country's government's all jacked up, it's not the people. It's the government. So I just kind of want to put that in there, that I was not like dissing the Brits. Dude, I got British friends. So talking about the crown at the time. Okay, so here's a way that you could use spearmint in a gunpowder green tea. Okay, so this is called ginger spearmint gunpowder green tea. Combined with lemon and spearmint polyphenols, antioxidants found in gunpowder green tea help destroy naturally occurring compounds associated with halitosis, bad breath, tooth decay, and even mouth cancer. Cool beans. So here's a little recipe if you guys want it. If you're wanting, to help your teeth out a little bit, or you want to help a little bit of bad breath, or hey, maybe you're just like, you know what? I'm all about the anti-cancer. Give it to me. You're going to need 2 lemons, 1 4-inch piece of ginger root, 2 bunches of spearmint. If it grows wild, fantastic. 1 cup of gunpowder green tea leaves and 1 cup of boiling water. So peel the lemons, remove the pith, and cut the rinds into very small slivers. Place the rinds on a metal rack. You can juice the lemons for another use. Peel the ginger root and cut it into very thin slices. Place on the rack with the lemon rinds. Remove the leaves from the spearmint stems, being careful to ensure the leaves remain intact. Discard the stems and place the whole spearmint leaves on the rack with the lemon rinds and ginger root. Let the lemon rinds, ginger root, and spearmint leaves dry at room temperature until completely dry and brittle, which is about 24 hours. Make sure there is no moisture remaining, or you could put them in a food dehydrator or just put them in the oven at like 350 degrees for, probably wouldn't take that long. Try 15-20 minutes. Probably won't take that long. I would say keep an eye on it. Crumble the spearmint leaves into small pieces. In a large bowl, mix the lemon rinds, ginger, spearmint leaves, and tea leaves. When they are thoroughly mixed, spoon the mixture into an airtight jar. Store at room temperature for up to a month. To make the tea, pour the boiling water into a large mug, add 2 teaspoons of the tea mixture, cover the mug, and allow the tea to steep for 10 minutes. The reason you want to cover the mug is you want to keep as much of those essential oils in the tea as possible because they escape in the steam. Okay, so there's that recipe if you guys are interested. And then those who are interested on how our ancestors, in a more spiritual sense, may have used spearmint. And they used it for energies involving healing, love, and mental power. Spearmint is used in all healing applications, especially in aiding lung diseases. Spearmint is sometimes used to provoke lust. Smelled, spearmint increases and sharpens mental powers. For protections while you sleep, our ancestors used to stuff their pillows or mattresses with spearmint. So I would say that refreshing herb, although I would probably prefer lavender or maybe even a cup of linden before I went to bed. I don't think I've ever actually taken spearmint before I've gone to bed. Maybe I should try it. Maybe I should try like making a little pillow of spearmint and putting that under my pillow and see if I dream any better or I sleep any harder. Because dude, when I'm asleep, I'm like dead to the world. So okay. So let's head outside. I'm going to put my boots back on. Actually, I'm going to put my socks back on before I put my boots on. And I'll read you a little bit more about spearmint before we come back in and do some super chats, super stickers. I missed you guys last week. Like I said, my folks were here. It was my stepmom's birthday on the 20th. So I made her a carrot cake from scratch, her favorite cake. And she was so overjoyed. She said, not only did it taste good, but nobody has made her a cake since she was a little girl. So I felt happy to do so. And she said that her sister, who recently passed away, used to be the baker in the family. And so I thought that, since I had never made carrot cake before, like I felt like maybe her sister was aiding me in the kitchen and that. And then the day after, on the 21st, which was our Sunday, it was Father's Day. And, my dad was here and I haven't seen them in 5 years. So I made his favorite lemon meringue pie. We couldn't wait for it to set. So, so it was a very kind of like, maybe almost a little too liquidy a lemon meringue pie. But the next day it tasted so good because it finally set up, but it tasted good when it was warm too. Yeah, we had steak, we had mashed potatoes, we had beans. My dad felt like he said he was like eating like a king. We had a good heart to heart. The day before, when Riley and my stepmom went off to our friend's food truck to go pick us up some burritos, my dad and I shared we didn't really share. My dad was like, as soon as they left, he was like, "Can I have a beer?" I was like, "Yeah." So I got him his favorite, which is MGD. And I had an MGD with him. Not my favorite beer, but I can have an MGD. So we had a nice heart to heart. Like we haven't had like that kind of heart to heart, I think, ever. So it was very cathartic. It was very nice. I felt like my dad and I became closer because we've had some issues in the past. And I think it was really nice. It was a very good visit, and I genuinely missed them when they left. I thought about doing a live chat, but I wanted to spend as much time with them as possible, knowing they weren't going to be here for a long time. They were just going to be here for a couple of days, really. But I said that I would tell you guys all about it. And I did post some pictures online. My stepmom was like so about shooting the guns. She wanted to shoot anything and everything we had. My dad's like not too big on, arms. So he was like, "No, I'll just watch." But I was like, I have a Smith and Wesson Model 29, which those who know, that's Dirty Harry's gun. And I have the 7/8 inch barrel, which is like a freaking long barrel. And I was like, "Come on, Papa, this is Dirty Harry's gun. Like just one bullet, just one." And he's like, "Well, okay." I was like, "I'll shoot the rest and then you can shoot one." He was like, "Okay." So I remember he shot it. He was like, "Holy cow, like, you're shooting this thing?" And then my brother had called well on Sunday for Father's Day. So he was sitting in the truck because the sun was going down. It was getting kind of chilly, and my dad was kind of cold up here. So he was sitting in the truck watching us, waste ammo. And I could overhear him talking to my brother. He was like, dude, your sister's shooting right now and she's deadly accurate. Like everything she points it at, she explodes. He's so, you should have seen her. She was like, pow, 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 pow. um, so yeah, I'm glad I got to impress my dad. And then my dad's like, what happened to my little girl? I'm like, she kicks ass now, Papa. Like, anywho, I was so happy to have them come visit. I can't wait for them to come back. Okay. Let's go back to your comments. Brr, brr, brr. Okay. Siren says, my roommate keeps watching CNN, so I know things I wish I didn't. Costalia says, basically, the government, WEF, thought Trudeau was too weak to deal with Trump, so they put a guy named Mark Carney in office. Carney previously ran the Bank of England, a central banker. People protested because there was no election, so they held an election where he won like one seat by like one seat. And then a few people cross the floor, and suddenly he has majority control of the country. His family lives in New York and has not paid taxes there in over 10 years. Canadian prime ministers do not have to be born in the country, which is another great thing America requires: birth in the country to rule it. British law allows foreign rulers. Siren said the Democrats prioritize Social Security and tighter gun restrictions, while the Republicans only care about adding to their bank accounts. I would say both parties care about adding to their bank accounts. And I would say that there are a lot of Republicans who are also trying to prioritize Social Security because, well, for people who are the average Joe and not just like trying to become career politicians and make zillions of dollars under doing all kinds of shady things, I would say both sides would want that the money they worked for, that they put into Social Security, they would want that back, by the time they retire. So I would say that that is a bipartisan thing, that both parties, no matter what these like talking heads are saying, both sides of the group, they're focused on Social Security. That's not something where they're like, oh, well, I worked for 30 years. They can go ahead and, have all the money that I paid in Social Security. That's cool. I think that's a bipartisan thing. And yes, I do see that the Democrats are focused on a lot of gun control and gun restrictions. But from a Republican perspective, they would say that the only people following those gun control rules are your law-abiding citizens, the people that are trying to do good. You're trying to do right. It's like, okay, I want to be able to conceal carry. I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to do that. So, I'm going to jump through all the hoops that, this party is putting in place so that I can have my constitutional right. And then there are the criminals that don't give two hoots about what the law says or what this says or that says. Maybe they obtained their firearm through theft. Maybe they obtained it through Mexico. Maybe they obtained it through other means. Maybe they brought it over with them when the border was open. I would say that a lot of gun restrictions are really only for the citizens and not for the criminal, because the criminal doesn't care. The criminal will do what the criminal wants to do. The criminal could be 18 years old or 17 years old. The criminal could be somebody with a criminal history and they went and just like illegally obtained a firearm. Criminals will do what criminals do, and they're not going to follow laws and rules. And I think that's where the disconnect is. There's one party saying, hey, the criminals don't care about the rules, and the Democrats are saying, but we want this to be a safer place. And so they see that there are so many criminals, doing criminal acts with a firearm or, with other things. And so they decide that the firearm is the bad thing, but let's go after the criminals. It's the criminals doing it. It's like saying, so many people get killed by drunk drivers. Let's take away all the cars. Let's put more restrictions on cars, and then we won't have any more drunk driving accidents. Like, no, let's get to the problem. Drunk driving. If are crimes being committed with firearms, let's look at who's committing those crimes, why they're committing those crimes, and let's eliminate the crimes instead of putting more and more restrictions on what it is that they're using. In England, where there's a lot of restrictions on firearms, they have a big problem with knives. They realize, well, we can't get our hands on firearms, so they go on stabbing sprees. They just start stabbing people randomly, the criminals. So criminals are going to find a way to hurt people no matter what. They're going to find a way to be criminals. I don't know. I don't go off on a tangent, but yeah, I that's such a big topic, the gun control. So, okay. Costalia says, I don't want gun restrictions or Social Security. Siren says, by any means necessary. I'm disabled. I have Social Security. I need Social Security. Of course, I know. There's my family. They're on Social Security. Costalia says, not that kind of Social Security. Old age Social Security. Ah, I get you. And Siren says, and when Trump lifted the gun restrictions, a little boy in my town got into his parents' gun case and accidentally killed himself. So that's another thing. It's that has nothing to do with the president in charge. It has nothing to do with the gun manufacturers. It has everything to do with parents being responsible with items that could be harmful to their child, whether that be a gun, a knife, poison around the house, pharmaceuticals being left out, mom's Xanax, dad's whatever, that the children could get into, instead of going after the people that made the pills, or the people that created the hammer that he hit himself in the head with, or the knife or the gun. Like, let's make the people accountable, make the parents accountable. And Siren says the gun was just left on the nightstand. And that's irresponsible. That's highly irresponsible. And I would say the gun just being by itself on the nightstand, the gun didn't do anything. It's the people. The people left it there. The people were irresponsible. And that is sad. That is very sad. Cosley says, then they're irresponsible parents, not the gun's fault. Canada banned all the guns, and now there's even more gun crime because obviously criminals still have guns, and now they just rob all the unarmed people. That was something that my friends. Okay, so where I grew up in a Mexican neighborhood, and a lot of people's families still live down south of the border. And when the person in charge in Mexico at the time was like, no more guns. Like, they were banned, like outright outlawed. Nobody can have a gun in this country. Then there was the rise of the cartels. And all of the cartels and all of the bad guys have guns, but now none of the citizens have guns. So now the citizens just do what the bad guys tell them to do because they're the ones that are armed. And it was like, so much for the gun ban there. That sucked. This is wild. Costolini said, when I was 17, I knew a guy in high school who was in with a cartel. He would clean and move handguns for them. He claimed he had killed a few people, but I doubt that. But I witnessed with my own eyes him moving a handgun. Wow. Kitsuna said, I definitely agree. It's better to have just a good protection from a criminal. In other parts of the world, they use machetes a lot and big knives. So clearly there's a problem source. Siren said, in Japan, there's a new thing called upskirting, where guys just lift up girls' skirts to attack them. And scary thing is, most of the attackers are teenage boys. So yeah, I mean, every country has its thing. I think ultimately the want, no matter what political party, what country you're from, it's let's protect the citizens, and everybody has their own point of view on how to protect the citizens. But we also have to look at holding people accountable, hold the criminals accountable, instead of looking at the person. Like, let's say another thing, like in Japan, some people say, oh well, there's no guns allowed in Japan. Somebody had made a gun in Japan and tried to take out one of the people in their government. I think he did end up killing somebody with a homemade gun, but yet guns are outlawed in Japan. So just because there's a law, or just because there's this or that, laws don't stop criminals. So we have to find better ways on how can we prevent crimes. We don't just say, okay, well, we're going to take away all the sharp pointy things, and now there won't be any crime. There'll always be some sort of crime. Criminals will try to find a way, whether they try to hurt a bunch of people using a vehicle. What are we going to take away all the cars now? Or they try to make homemade bombs. Are we going to take away all household chemicals and cleaners because people know how to make bombs out of them? Are we going to take away all the alcohol because people know how to make Molotov cocktails out of them? It's like, where does it end? Where do we say, okay, we're going to take away all your things that you can hurt people? Instead, let's go after them. Let's go after the people trying to hurt people. The citizens are just trying to be citizens. They're trying to live their lives. And that was another thing, is during the Revolutionary War, Britain wanted to disarm the colonists because they knew that, number one, if they weren't separated from the Native Americans and them and the natives got together and they were armed, dude, we're effed. So it was like, we're going to take away your guns now. And they really were. They were trying to, that's why that's written in as an amendment in our Constitution, is because of that very reason, because the British monarchy was trying to disarm the people because the people had a way to defend themselves. That's why, and alongside the natives who also had ways of defending themselves, working alongside of them, they were able to push back the monarchy. And so, unfortunately, that is kind of our world at the moment. And until, the big guy comes back and, and lays down the law, I think we have to figure out how to better ourselves, to protect ourselves in the meantime, until, I don't know, we work on this thing called ego and we get rid of it, and we work on darkness, and trying to put more light out into the world, and but also trying to understand, people that may not agree with everything that we say, or we don't agree with everything they say. I think that that's the main thing about coming together, is that, sure, we may not agree on everything, but let's at least try to understand each other. And sure, we could be very, anti this or anti that, or pro this or pro that. It's those differences that actually make this world so beautiful. But when we put division and hatred into the equation, that because I believe this and you don't believe this, that means that I hate you or you hate me, that's where the conflict comes in. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm not like telling you guys, but I'm just like, whatever, mind, blah, blah, blah. I'm just talking, just saying my thoughts. But yeah, I think that once we can get to a place as humanity, not just the US or not just this country or that, but as humanity, when we can really sit down and listen to other people, where are they coming from? Let's find some common ground, even if we don't agree on everything, and let's do it. Let's just grow as as people. Let's make this world a better place, and all of that. But yeah, that might be a while. It might be a little bit, but that's okay. I don't lose hope. I got hope for us. I've got hope for myself. I've got hope for my family. I got hope for all of us. Okay. Let's take my book. I'm going to take us out and take a look at spearmint. Maybe we can figure out why spearmint is our ally this week. Let's see. Costellini said, so illegally acquired, only protection against that is with legal firearms. And Siren's like, sigh, I surrender. And sorry, I think that this is wonderful that we're all posting our opinions and viewpoints. I don't think anybody's trying to like argue that we know more than the other in my ways, but I think we're just voicing our opinions. So I'm glad that you've been voicing your opinion. I'm glad Costellini and myself and everybody in here posting their opinions. Like I said, the more we do this, the more we can understand one another. So I think that this is wonderful. And Costellini said, historically, governments have committed 99.999% of gun crime. Yeah, there was even a little thing back in, I forget what state it is. You would have to do your own research on it, where the police department in this, like, I don't think it was the whole state. Maybe it was a couple of towns. They were doing like a buyback program. Like if you turn in your firearm, we'll give you like $50 or $100. And it was for, they said, to clean up the streets. They wanted less guns on the streets. They said, if there's less guns on the streets, Cool. So they thought that this would help because if we get the law-abiding citizens to turn in their guns, that means there's going to be less crime. That's the law-abiding citizens. So this police department ended up being crooked. Was then selling those same firearms that the citizens had returned and selling it to criminals back on the street. Like, I think that department was like restructured. I think there was a lot of firing that went on once they found out what that happened. But to think that that probably just wasn't one department, like how many other departments has that happened? So interesting. Kitsuna said, unfortunately, most people don't like to admit they're wrong or that they are more sides to a situation that they're not seeing. But you know what? That's in all of us. That's all our human egos. There's something that we could be so passionate about that we just don't want to be wrong, about it. And I don't think it makes anybody a bad person. It's just being human. Some people are like, I'm very passionate about, I don't know, what's a nice touchy topic? Oh, probably going to get so censored on YouTube for this live chat because live chat's rules are no touchy topics. I'm going to put a touchy topic out there. Some people are very pro-life. Some people are pro-abortion. And some people are so invested in that point of view, they don't want to see the other side because we want to be right? Because it makes us feel good. Since we were little kids, whenever we did something good, our parents were like, good job, yay, high five, little gal, little boy. We did good in school, we got good grades, more praise, yay. So it feels good to know that you did something good, and we equate being right with being good, and it gives us a little dopamine boost. We feel good about it. And so sure, it's understandable that when we're really passionate about something, we don't want to see that there might be more sides to it, because then we feel like we're wrong. But there's nothing wrong with trying to learn more. It's not like we're going to get an F in life or something, or that now our parents are going to be waving their finger at us. How dare you be wrong on this topic? I think that unfortunately, maybe that's how society trained us to be, that you're either right or you're wrong. And if you're wrong, you're bad, you're dumb, you're, all these nasty negatives. But being wrong about something just means, oh, well, there was more to learn. Cool. Now I know more. So maybe there really is no like right and wrong. There's just more information to have a clearer understanding and a clearer opinion. But yeah, sure, all of us, we're humans. Me too. Like when somebody points out something that I thought for sure I had an understanding of, and then somebody gives me a totally different perspective, and my little ego gets bruised. I'm like, oh, I thought I knew, but dude, I'm human too. So I'm like, but then you know what? I learned more. I learned something. Thank you, person who pointed that out to me. Thank you. Maybe at the time I wasn't thanking them, but afterwards I was. Okay. Let's see. Costalia says, Lilith hasn't said anything. They must have arrested her. Oh no. Or she fell asleep. I mean, it is pretty late where she lives. Kitsune said, Kitsu is passionate about cultural ceremonies and tradition. Siren says, it depends on the situation. If there's no other choice but abortion, then okay. Like if there's legit threat otherwise. When I had to let mom off life support, I felt like a murderer. So yeah, see, all of our experiences develop into our filters and how we see the world. Siren had to deal with, the massive choice on whether to take her mother off of life support. My father had to make that choice. There are girls out there that have to make the choice. Do I have an abortion? Do I not have an abortion? What's going to be the effects, like mentally, emotionally, physically? After this, there's people who have had their, let's say a person in their family gets shot by someone. Now they have this perspective. Is it the criminal that I hate, or is it the weapon that they used? And is that going to skew my perspective? And so we all have these life experiences. And I think that because of those experiences, it colors how we see the world. But then we need to talk about it, and the more we talk about it, I think the more that and we're open about other people's points of view and where they're actually coming from. Like if we ask, let's say, Lilith, what's your opinion on X, Y, and Z? And she says, well, this is my opinion and this is how I feel. But then we also ask, oh, well, where is it coming from? What's your background on that? Then we get to learn about Lilith more. And we understand why she has that opinion. Or we understand why Costolini has that opinion, things he's witnessed in his life. Or I share with you guys things that happen in my life, and now you understand why I have a YouTube channel, or why I talk about the things I do, or why I decided to have a channel change. We learn so much about each other if we're just more communicative. And I think that even though we have the internet, we have social media, we have so many ways of communicating with each other, the communication has fallen off the rails. Like real communication. And that's so ironic, right? That we have so many more ways in connecting with people, but it seems like we've really forgotten how to truly connect. Like, sure, I can connect to you guys all over the US, all over the world, but sometimes there's a disconnect too. And I don't know, I find that so ironic, so weird. We have so many ways of communicating, but somehow communication has like just let's see. Lilith is trying hard not to melt away. Lilith doesn't do online political discussions. Lilith is feeling blue. Blue yoni? Yes, I know it's very hot there. Just stay cool, my friend. Stay cool. Costolini says in Toronto, they have abortion parties. It's been desensitized and framed in education to the point where most younger people really couldn't think anything of it. Wow. Lilith says Costolini just wants to be a cowboy. Costolini says, like, compared to in America, it's so desensitized, there really isn't a hot topic exactly. It's called the Overton window, something that is a big political issue, but one place might not be all elsewhere. Be at all elsewhere. And Siren says, I'm so terrible on social media. You're my only follower and subscriber. Well, when I do get to actually scroll through the Instagrams, I do appreciate seeing the cool things that you put out there. So, you know what? We should always be our own biggest fan first, because I was making YouTube videos and nobody was watching them at first. So I had to love what I was doing, because, and if I didn't love what I was doing, then like, who am I making it for if not for myself? So at first I made it because I thought it was fun. And then I got 1 subscriber. It was my brother. That's okay. Then I got 2 subscribers. It was my stepmom. I got 3 subscribers. That was my best friend. But you know what? I do the live chats and I do my videos because I genuinely love to do it. So Siren, if the things that you do on social media, you genuinely love to do, keep doing it. It doesn't matter who's watching. You like doing it, and that's all that matters. You're putting your creativity and your love and your light out there, and it's felt by the collective consciousness, even if physical social media is not looking at it. Plus, remember, social media is manipulated. I saw that in my viral video. It was like, oh, you've had 612,000 views. I'm like, that's crazy. Next day, you've had 599,000 views. What? Next day, you've had 597,000. What? What? Freaking social media. um, let's see. Lila says, Yoni permanently blue by now. Oh no! It needs resuscitation. Cosolidi says it's only the early healthcare services that's free for Americans. Life as a politics thing, they made abortions 100% free for Americans. But if you cut your hand, regular pricing. What? What? That's cray cray. You have inspired me to read up more on these other political systems and systems. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole, I hope you know. Siren said, exactly. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, now let's get on those boots that I previously talked about. Okay, by the way, wearing my grandma's boots today. The 27th would have been her 88th birthday if she were still here with us on this earthly plane. Okay, I'm gonna have. Oh, speaking of blue yonis, my drink has turned blue. I'm blue, la da dee da da, la da dee da da da. Okay, we're going out to go see the wild spearmint real quick, and then we'll come back and do super chat, super stickers, in case you guys have some dream interpretations. Oh, you coming, Vigorski? Or herby questions? Or ailment questions? Okay. It is so windy out here. I do apologize if it sounds like a wind tunnel in my microphone. P.S. Check out my little garden. It's coming in so well. Okay. Spearmint. Let's talk about you. Ooh. Okay. Let's get the camera down lower so you guys can see. Okay. Burp, burp, burp. There we go. Okay, this stuff here, wild spearmint. This back here, yarrow, just kind of growing wild. But we'll talk about yarrow another time. Right now, we're going to talk about our spearmint friends. Okay, so let me open to the little page about spearmint. Let's see. Okay, spearmint and curly mint are more versatile culinary mints, milder than peppermint. They enhance all sorts of meat, fish, or vegetable dishes. They mingle well with veal, eggplant, white beans, black beans, lentils, cracked wheat, salads. Woo, it's windy. Lots of stuff. It says they are old friends of peas, lamb, jelly, sauces, candy, and chocolate. Let's see. Welsh cooks even add mint to the boiling water when they prepare cabbage. Dried mint adds a nice touch to split pea soup, diminishing the need for salt. Okay. Mint remedies. You can use mint for flatulence, abdominal pain, flu or colds, insomnia, fever, headaches, toothache, bad breath, chapped hands, sore mouth and throat, for bee stings and other insect bites. The more you know. Most mints are native to Europe and Asia, some indigenous to South Africa, America, and Australia, naturalized throughout North America from southern Canada to Mexico. You can use the flowers, the leaves, the fruits. Yes, there is fruit. It's not very big, but the birds like it. Let's see. Okay, history. Here's some fun history for you guys. When Persephone found out that Pluto was in love with the beautiful nymph Minth, jealousy burned within her. Arr, and she changed Minth into a lowly plant. Pluto couldn't undo Persephone's spell, but he did soften it a little so that the more Minth was tread upon, the sweeter her smell would be. The name Minth changed to Mentha and became the genus name of this herb, mint. Few people considered it a lowly plant. The Pharisees paid their tithes with mint. The Romans crowned themselves with peppermint wreaths. The Roman scholar Pliny thought it is the loveliest of herbs. The very smell of it reanimates the spirit. The Greeks used mint in various herbal treatments and temple rites. They believed it could clear the voice, cure hiccups, and counteract sea serpent stings. Is that like stingrays and jellyfish? Okay, so we know that there's a host of medicinal uses as well. But basically, it just clears up things. So it soothes, just like it has that cooling taste when you ingest peppermint or spearmint or any type of mint, really. Maybe not so much catnip, but when you put it in your teas or you put it in your foods, and it just has that cooling effect. Well, it has that same cooling effect. That's the mentha. That you feel in your stomach, or you feel like, oh yay, I no longer have so much gas, or just everything's simmered down now. And perhaps that's why it's our herb of this week, is because as we've been talking about, the topic today, natives and the Revolutionary War, and how that brought up all these topics that we feel very passionate about, that sometimes that passion can be so intense that we end up quarreling with our fellow brother and sister. And so, use our words. Experiment is helping us to use our words, not our fists. Let's come together. Let's share our opinions, our thoughts, our backgrounds, where we're coming from, why we have these opinions, thoughts, and backgrounds. And let's just simmer down some. There's so much going on in the world. There's no need to fight with one another. And an opinion is not a punch. It's just an opinion. So perhaps Experiment is helping us out with that. Okay. I do quickly want to show you guys the garden. Just because I'm so proud of it. Okay. So in here, I have my romaine lettuce, and I have some mystery squash from Thailand. And I don't know if you could see it, but I have these little mushroom water globes that my friend Heather just got me yesterday. They're so cute. So hopefully my squash will like that. I do need to water them this evening. And in here I have potatoes. They're all pieces of potatoes that sprouted in my pantry, that you get from the store. And I just put them in the soil, and they turned into more potatoes. So we have sage, we have chamomile, and we have rosemary in this pot. Down in here, we have all the tomato plants you could think of, and cilantro, and some basil coming back, even though the grasshoppers wanted to eat all of my freaking basil. And mint. Here we go. Down in here, we have peppermint, and we have catnip, and it's starting to multiply. I think that's fabulous. And then we also have some lemon balm here, courtesy of one of my other friends who gifted me that. In here I have lavender, strawberries. My three sisters are starting to grow here. That's corn, beans. In the outskirts, if you see little green guys, that's squash. I don't remember what squash is where. I just know that what squash I planted. So we'll see. I like when it's a mystery. Okay, we'll head back now. Hold on. Whoop. Okay. Oh, Vader wants me to show you my peppers. So in here, I have cayenne peppers and mystery Thai chilies. We'll see when they sprout. And I have a raised bed in the back here, but not much grew because it doesn't get enough sun. So I'm going to, next season, or maybe this winter, plant things that want more shade there instead of more sun. Vader, are you coming? He's coming. Okay. Okay, let's go. I'm so glad I got to show you the garden. I showed you when they were little seedlings. Okay. Whew. All right. So we're coming to the end of the live chat. So if you guys, gotta catch my breath. Anybody wants to do a super chat or super sticker, if you got a dream interpretation needed, you want to learn about a particular herb, maybe you want a recipe for an ailment that you have, or I don't know, you got a vehicle question or something, or off-griddy question, go ahead, let me know. So you could do super chat, super stickers. Some people don't trust YouTube because, well, I wouldn't trust YouTube either. So you're free to use Venmo if you want, or Cash App or PayPal. It's totally up to you. So, but yeah, and you just donate whatever your feels like, and just let me know what your question is, and I will do my best to either dive into a book and find you the answer, or maybe it's in my mental Rolodex. I don't know. So, um, let's see. Let's go back here. Costolini says, "Oh, that reminded me. I had blood draw on Wednesday and not through insurance to test for varicella. And the lab decided they didn't want to test the blood after drawing it. Were they going to drink the blood? Like, what? Vampires?" Siren says, "Out of my 35 videos, one has 38 views. That's my highest one." Cool. Cool beans. Costolini says, "Which is crazy. Like, if you consent to a lab in the USA to test your blood and you pay cash for it, they can just arbitrarily choose not to test it." Dude, that is crazy sounding. Like, yes, I consent to you doing this with my blood. And they're like, nah. Like, what? Cray cray. Lila says, "Happy almost birthday, Tara's Nana." So yeah, 27, she would have been 88. My Nana, which is my dad's mother, her birthday was September, June 7th, and she would have been 105 if she were alive. So yes, there's a big age gap between both my grandmothers. One would have been 88, the other 105. And my grandmother that was going to be 88, she's only 2 years older, or would have been 2 years older than my dad. Anywho. Katsuna said, "Happy birthday, Grandma." Lilith said, "Send wind." Oh, you can have it. Believe me, Lilith, just all the wind your way. I'm sorry if it was a wind tunnel in the microphone. I have my little fuzzy on there. I hope it helped. Siren says, "Mint chocolate chip ice cream." Girl, I hear you on the mint chip. That is my favorite ice cream in the whole world. Costolini says, "Nothing says freedom like credit cards and big tech." Oh, yeah. Freedom. It's kind of like an oxymoron when you mix freedom and credit cards and big tech. He says, "Yeah, for a green card, you have to prove that you don't have certain diseases or had them as a child." What? Siren says, "What will happen at the concert?" "I'll send lyrics from my favorite AFI song as payment." Okay, well, we could dive into, because remember, when divination is done, it's only looking into things that could happen, but there's no guarantee that you would find yourself on any one of those timelines, which is why I like looking into now, in what ways could I ensure that I have a good time? What can I do to ensure that I have a good time? And then you eventually find yourself on the timeline that you wanted to be on all along. And that's something that, like, I couldn't quite put my finger on, but when I was like doing like card readings for people and things like that, and I felt like in a lot of ways people were being aided in that way, but I also felt in some way, and I couldn't put my finger on it, that was somehow disempowering. And I was like, so how can I help to empower people? And so I kind of waited for the creator to speak, and he was like, well, he says, when one's doing like divination, you're saying that this could happen, this could happen. So you're putting people's power into the future, and they're waiting as a reaction, that I'm waiting to see if that future comes true. But we can be more proactive, which is more making the future that you want desired happen, because we're being proactive here in the present. So I would say I'm going to look up an herbal ally to, based on how you want to feel at this concert, and getting into that mode now will ensure that that's how you feel, and the experiences that go along with that feeling. Because remember, like, if we're feeling happy, chances are how we see everything and the world around us is going to be pretty freaking happy. Our perspective is going to be happy. If we're in a bad mood, you notice how, like, all of a sudden we start seeing the bad in everything, and we start getting really grumpy with people. So tell me, Siren, how do you want to feel at the concert? And off of that, we'll figure out what you can do in the present to ensure that that is what happens at the concerts. Let's see. Well, this is Tara. Can you bring me some clarity why this week went haywire on my ass, pretty please? Yes, for sure. So we'll go with Siren and then our friend Lilith. Siren says, "Who's to say when the cats are away? What they say, what they say. I won't come back. Who's to say when the cats are away? What they say, what they say. Who's to say when the cats are away?" I had a dream about a cat. Interesting. Maybe I'll tell you guys about my wackadoodle dream. And Siren says the song is Snowcats from the Blood album. Ooh, and then we have our friend Costalini. All right. So, um, yes, so Costalini, we will take a look at what this allergy might be for sure. Okay, so Siren, tell me, how do you want to feel at the concert? And then, of course, everything else will fall into place with that feeling. But first of all, tell me, how do you want to feel when you head off to that AFI concert? This was really good, by the way. I'm just down to the blue. I'm so blue, Johnny. So very blue. And then while we wait for Siren, I want to show you guys a book that my stepmom gave me while she was here. She had a few books to offload onto me, and one of those is The Gardener's Latin. I thought this was pretty cool because in books about plants or whatever it is you're looking at, more educational type books, they often have like a Latin next to it. And so let's say like for mint, it says labitier. So it has this like Latin word there. And you might be like, what the heck? And we just always are like, okay, well, that's just the Latin word for it. Well, I looked it up. Labitier means lip shaped. I was like, oh, or lobe shaped. I was like, let me actually give you the correct thing. So let me look up labitier. And then Siren, we will take a look-ski. I just wanted to show off this book real quick. I think it's just the more you know. Okay, lipetier means with a well-developed lip. And looking at those spearmint plants, I would say they do have a well-developed lip. It kind of looks like a tongue, actually, but cool. The more you know. So that's what those Latin terms, the Latin terms have very specific, like, I don't know, descriptions on what it looks like. It's not necessarily a direct translation of like the word spearmint. It doesn't mean spearmint. It's like describing what the spearmint looks like. I was like, oh, that's nifty. Anyway, so I dig it. I just kind of want to know what I'm reading, you know? Okay, so Siren says, it's my first AFI concert, so I'm excited. Okay, so she wants to continue to feel excited. So, you know, we don't want to have a bad experience at this concert. So, okay, excited. Let's, okay, let me sit with that. I want to sit with an herb that is for, you know what, ginger keeps coming to mind. So let me read a little bit about ginger. And then that will help us to have like a little bit of a starting point. What you could do now to keep that excited feeling. I was about to say, what, ginger's not in this book? That would be crazy. Okay, 223 and 288. Aha. Okay. 4,400 years ago, Greek bakers were using ginger imported from the Orient to make gingerbread. The Spanish were cultivating ginger as early as the 16th century, and the conquistadors introduced it to the New World via Jamaica. It became so popular among Europeans that in 1884, Great Britain imported over 5 million pounds of the root. Nice. So, something that we learn about ginger, like medicinally, even though it's considered spicy and fiery, if you've ever been to like a sushi restaurant and got some like sashimi or sushi, and they usually may give you like some wasabi, but they also give you some finely sliced ginger. And it's just meant to like help aid digestion. And some people actually feel like ginger is too hot, but it's not hot technically in the system. It's actually very soothing. So if you have an upset tummy, it helps to soothe that tummy, even though it's considered very fiery. If you have gas issues, some little flatulence problems, it helps to soothe it, even though it, it's not going to light your farts on fire. So it doesn't, even though its taste is fiery, its attributes are very soothing. So when working with ginger, or if you want to focus on ginger this week, or, before your concert arrives, you can try to incorporate ginger into your everyday, or maybe you just want to dress in the color of ginger, which might be like a yellowy orange, almost like a turmeric color, to kind of create that fiery excitement. So sometimes when we become so excited about something, that excitement ends up making us feel very ungrounded. But I want you to be grounded but excited at your concert, so you can have the most fun possible. Because I know that sometimes when like we get too excited about something, and then it's very hard for us to enjoy the moment because we're so ungrounded and we're so like spicy. So I would say, leading up to the concert, do things that help to soothe you, but also to bring you joy. But, and it helps you to keep that excitement about the concert, but to help keep you grounded. So for instance, let's say you get really excited about watercolors. I mean, I do. Maybe that's not everybody's jam, but I'm just giving an example. So let's say you get excited about watercolors, but the act of watercoloring is very soothing. Let's say you get really excited about listening to music. Maybe you want to listen to an AFI album, but when you're actually studying the lyrics, it can be very soothing because your mind is in a different mode. You're having to focus on the words. What's the meaning of the words? What's the metaphor here? What are they trying to say? Reading between the lines, basically, instead of just like taking in the song. So anything that you enjoy, I would say do as much as you can do that really brings you joy, but also can help to soothe you, keep you grounded. For me, I like gardening. I get really excited about gardening. I know that's such an exciting thing to say. I get stoked about gardening, but I do. But it's very grounding because I have to focus on what I'm doing. I can't just be like spraying my plants all willy nilly. I'm going to kill them all. So, what is it that you enjoy doing? Do those things before the concert. And it may seem like, well, they have nothing to do with me going to the concert, but they do, because you're keeping that fiery stimulus, my passions, the things that light me up. But at the same time, while doing them, they help to ground me. They help to put me in that meditative space. I feel in my aura, in my body. So that's Ginger's advice for you, before your concert goes full steam ahead, before you head off to it, is continue to try to find at least one thing a day. One thing a day. It could be a small thing, it could be a big thing, but something that you're really passionate about. It could be even making an Instagram post. You were just talking about those, your social media posts. Really dive into it, but be mindful. How am I feeling in this moment? Do I feel calm? Am I like starting to get a little erratic? And then maybe stop that activity. Let's try something else. Like for me, sometimes I find sewing to be really cathartic, but sometimes if, if the machine is acting up, I could get really ungrounded sewing and I get like really cracked out. So in that case, if my goal is to remain excited about something than grounded, but I notice that I'm becoming very ungrounded in this sewing activity that I'm doing, I'm going to stop sewing. I'm going to do something else, because this is like the opposite of how I want to feel in the future. So try that out. Again, remember, if it's you're getting frustrated, you're getting off kilter, stop that activity, table it for another time, because the point is to remain passionate and excited about what you're doing right now, to help you feel grounded and calm, so that when you finally go to the concert, you can enjoy it while being grounded at the same time, because you basically practiced it for days. And, what is it? Your concert's in soon. Is it this month, next month? I forgot. But leading up to the concert, you could say, well, I've just done like this many weeks or days of practicing the very thing, being excited but grounded, so I can totally enjoy the experience, leading up to the concert. So painting may not seem like it's connected or gardening or watercolors or doing social media posts, but it is because they're things that light you up. They're things that you are passionate about. Siren said, AFI stands for a fire inside. Well, then, very apropos, huh? So ginger, fire. Lilith says, it might if you put a lighter up close. Siren says, sounds exactly like Davey Havoc, the lead singer. He's a Scorpio. Yes, Davey is a brilliant songwriter. There's a fan song the band sings the start of every concert. Through our bleeding, we are one. Thank you. Okay, so October 25th. We'll see. You have some time. You have a lot of practice to do before then. So like I said, just pick one thing a day, one small thing a day. And you may notice that being in this like passionate, excited, yet grounded and soothing state is going to have an effect on all other things besides how you're going to feel at the concert. So you're going to have a lovely time at the concert. You're going to be excited. You're going to be grounded, and you're going to be able to just soak in the experience. But remember to do this with all other things besides listening to AFI albums. Do this with all other things that light you up leading up to that concert so that you can have that outcome, that future that you're looking for. What? Costalini turned into a vampire. I just caught that out of the blue. He says he just started cutting garlic and his skin started to itch. That's new. Not sure if related. Oh, are you turning into a vampire? So when they took your blood at the clinic, did they take it with a needle or a bite to the neck? Inquiring minds want to know. Okay, so Lilith, let's take a look at your question, and then Costalini, we will get to yours. And I'm sure you weren't asking about being a vampire, but you know. Okay, so Lilith. Okay, so bringing in some clarity on what happened this past week. I decided to do because I did read your email yesterday, but I also had Heather and her husband over, so I figured we'd probably talk about it during the live chat today. So here we are. And Lilith says, songs shall be written about how blue the yoni had to become. Not your feminine side coming up with new shenanigans to ask for attention some more. Oh, she was talking about a Costalini. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look ski. And Costalini said, oh yes, the flimbot mist put her teeth into my neck. Is that not what usually happens? I mean, not usually. Maybe it's a new form of extracting blood. I mean, especially in this new timeline we found ourselves in. I don't know. Okay, so Lilith, when I was just kind of feeling, I was really feeling you, like a feeling. First, I was feeling all of your emotions, and then I was just kind of feeling the energies of the people that surround you. You know, parental figures and friends and things of that nature, and just kind of everything that was coming up for you. And I was feeling that it was less about like specific lessons that you're meant to learn at this time, and it was more you feeling the entire collective consciousness, but from your perspective, just like we were talking about earlier about perspective. You know, we get one glimpse of something and all of a sudden we're trying to like analyze this one thing. You know, they look at freaking Riley screwing his cigar. I mean, with a real screw, screwing his cigar, and it's like, and all of a sudden, you know, there's like this 50 different perspectives on what the heck he was doing, who he is as a person. Like, it was so weird. So I feel like we do that too on our own lives. So I know that there's a lot that was going on, you know, in your personal life, you know, with a certain couple of people. But in your point of view, in Lilith's point of view, you're taking that snapshot. This person, and I'm trying to like super analyze what's going on with this person, why they made me feel this way, why they acted this way. Same with this person. And it's hard for us to see the bigger picture and realize that this has been going on with the entire collective. Me, Costalini, I'm pretty sure Siren, everybody else who's in this chat, my stepmom, my father. And I feel like whatever this next level is, and some people can point to various religious texts, and you know um, and for Riley and I, we might like point to the Bible, like certain things that are happening and things that happened in the past, because the Bible also has a bit of history in it, for all the other things, and other religious texts also would have a type of history in it, and seeing like what happened when, let's say, to the people of Babel, or in the spiritual community, they might say, well, look at what happened in the people in Atlantis. And so we might say now, so what are the not synchronicities, similarities, that's the word I'm looking for. What are the similarities between this religious text, this spiritual concept, this historical record, and this and this and this, and Native American stories, creation stories, that's in there too, that all of a sudden the world became kind of chaotic. Everybody's ego was running amok. People that were in power wanted more power, more and more greed, more and more. Well, in our modern time, it would be money. I want more money, more power, more, everybody wanted to be right. Everybody was worshiping this thing or that thing, basically the golden calf in our, metaphorically speaking. Some people are worshiping money. Some people are worshiping fame. Some people are worshiping the food that they eat. So it's this crazy time, and even the earth is feeling it. And even though we could say, well, the earth's being weather modified, we could say that, yes, that's one perspective, but also the earth has a mind of her own too. She could shake us off at any moment, so why is she allowing that to happen? Is it because she finally needed the stimulus to be able to be like, enough, people? you know, with, and how is she going to react? What's her reaction to all this that's been happening on her? And if she's feeling it, we're feeling it. If we're feeling it, the animals are feeling it. If the animals are feeling it, the trees are feeling it. Everything's feeling it. And so right now, everybody's going through a wealth of emotions, you included. You're part of this collective consciousness. So whether you're feeling just down and depressed, or angry, sad, maybe all of the above, and joyful, and everything, that's everything that we're feeling right now, because we're at this like pivotal moment. I'm not going to say, oh, something's going to happen tomorrow, we should all be in fear, but we are the cause of that. So the world reflects how we are feeling, and vice versa. It's this weird symbiotic relationship. So if we're feeling all these emotions, it's because the earth is feeling all those emotions. It's probably because our creator's feeling all of those emotions. Probably because the animals are feeling all of those emotions, because it knows that something's got to give. There's got to be change. Things are a little too cray cray. Cray cray can't last forever. Nothing lasts forever. The earth teaches us that. History teaches us that. So I know that you would want answers on like why this personally happened to me with this person. But what I feel like it is those people were there to bring out certain energies that need to be released in you. So it's not so much that they were trying to teach you a lesson, or that they're there because of some kind of karma, or that it was either going to be those people or some other people. Maybe it was going to be animals, but they were going to find a way to bring out that energy that the entire collective is feeling, so that you could release it. And so I think even one of my friends said yesterday, she just had to cry. She was like, she just felt so overwhelmed with everything. She just needed to cry. And I was like, dude, release it. My release has been in the form of sleep. I've never slept so much in my life. I feel like I have narcolepsy right now. I'm surprised I haven't fallen asleep during the live chat. But yeah, that's way my body apparently right now wants to release, is just to go to sleep and go dream some crazy dreams about it. For you, you feel it in your body. And so you're trying to attach that feeling to a particular person, but it isn't a particular person. It's the entire collective. And it's just like, just so that you can be grounded moving forward and be clear moving forward. There's just some stuff that needs to come out, is kind of what I'm feeling. Um, let's see. Lilith says she was feeling me. Boom chicka wow wow. Hey hey now. Ooh, yawnies. So, yeah, Lilith, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be fine. You're just a part of the human race like the rest of us. And I know that sometimes you feel maybe very detached from the human race, or wanting to be detached from the human race, but this is just to prove that nope, you're one of us, whether you like it or not. And you're just feeling what literally everything is feeling. And that usually happens right before there's a big change. And we were looking into, you know, I know that you don't live in America, but America is going to be turning 250. 2 plus 5 plus 0 is 7. And so I'm like, what if it's a 7 for the whole world, meaning death and rebirth, change, big change, good change. Not like scary change, but good change. So however we're all feeling, however we're dealing with it, remember self-care, take care of yourselves before you can take care of other people. And change is coming in a good way. So just hang in there, my folks. um, Lois says, I mean, I suspected it, but everyone around me seemed overly stable. I was like, WTF. And yeah, feels like release, but it's also a lot. It's, I feel like I'm about to lose my mind. That's how the collective is feeling. Seriously. And it's all perception. In fact, Riley just said something about that earlier today. We were leaving church, and he was telling this guy, like, that he had been in a pretty bad accident, and he was just kind of really hurting today, just kind of leftover stuff from the accident several years ago. And he said that sometimes he's really good at hiding it. So yes, it all is perception. So even though the people around you might seem like they got it together and they're stable, I would say if you were able to like peel back their human suit, you'd be like, holy cow, I'm just going to go ahead and zip that back up again, pretend I didn't look at all of that. So yeah, people got a lot going on, and we can attach it to, oh, this is going on in my life or this, but all those little things are going on in our lives because it's forcing the collective in all our individual ways to just release, 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 release. So it's not so much the individual people or the karmas or it's just, hey, we're going to put this person in your path because they're guaranteed to make you release in whatever way, so, and I think it's good. Even though we feel like we're losing our minds right now, it usually feels that way before we really start to gain clarity on something. I felt like that when I was in math class trying to learn parabolas and vertices and the quadratic equation. I felt like I was losing my freaking mind. Like numbers were just like, and then all of a sudden it snapped into focus and I understood them. Maybe not parabolas, but I started to understand the quadratic equation. So I feel like that's going to happen with a lot of us. Maybe not all at the same time, and again, time doesn't exist, but we'll all feel like we're losing our mind in our own way until all of a sudden it just all starts to make sense and it all snaps into focus. So hang in there. We're all feeling it. We're with you. You're not alone. We're with you. Lilith says, I know there's good change on the horizon. Well, you know better than I do. I know nothing, I suspect. Oh, please, you know a lot. Okay, sorry. Things are popping up on the computer. Costa Lee says, if you don't know x to the second power plus bx plus c, you'll be homeless. Dude, that's what the teacher said. If you don't learn algebra 2 or trigonometry or geometry, you're going to be homeless. Okay, Mr. Salili. He's retired now, I'm sure, or dead. He's probably passed away. He was pretty old when I graduated. Okay, sorry. Rest in peace, Mr. Salili. um, okay, so let's go back to Costalini. My goodness, these things keep popping up on the computer. Okay, Costalini says, I was doing some medical stuff yesterday, and the doc said my nose was inflamed, and she could hear cracking in my lungs, some kind of allergy. Can we look into what this allergy might be? If it helps, I was in Magnolia, and the doc suggested I go to the Woodlands to shop after, which just happens to be where the girl I'm interested in grew up. Interesting. So it's just strange there would be two trees involved there. Weren't there trees in your dream last time? It was like the big tall pine trees. Interesting. Um, this all has to do with that thing I texted you about around your birthday. And I just started cutting garlic. Oh, that's when Lilith thought you were a vampire. Your skin started to itch, and you weren't sure why. And Costalini says, "Oh yes, the flimbotanist had bit you in the neck." Um, Factor the equation. Costalini says, "Yes, pine trees in the prior dream." And Lilith, you are absolutely welcome, my friend. Mwah. Okay, so I want to look at garlic real quick before we look at allergy stuff. Okay. And you know what's good for allergies? Mullein. Mullein, which grows crazy out there. There's like a 5-foot tall mullein stalk out there. It's insane. Anyway, just had to. It says, and the question before that was about the allergies when I walked past the trees beside her office. Oh, yeah. Wow, you got this allergy stuff coming up. Okay, so what would I say? I wanted to look at garlic first, and then we'll look at this allergy stuff. No, that's ailment. We want herb. There we go. Okay, 63 or 168. Okay, garlic. I just want to look at what its actions are. Okay, so it has volatile oil, allinase, allicin. It has scordanins, selenium, vitamin A, B, C, and E. Its actions are antibiotic. It's an expectorant, which is good for allergies actually, increases sweating, lowers blood pressure, reduces blood clotting, it's anti-diabetic, and expels worms. Okay, well, I don't think you have an issue with worms. Okay. Okay, so vitamin A, also really good for the eyes, which is good for sight. Okay, so if garlic is giving somebody an issue, okay, so what's the from? Give me just a second. Oh, okay. I know that you were talking about like way back, you were talking about some skin ailments. Apparently, garlic is actually helpful with skin ailments, but you were talking about it being itchy on the skin, which is interesting. But also, garlic is attached to the prostate, which is attached to a lot of male issues. And again, we're talking about the trees, which is a very male thing. And so then we have this allergy coming up. Okay, we're going down a rabbit hole. Give me just a second. Okay, I need another book. Okay, so then let's go to allergies. To be allergic is to be in a state where one is prone to a different and often stronger and more uncontrollable reaction upon a second exposure to a specific antigen. Okay, so let's take, for instance, uh, somebody who's not allergic to bees and they get a bee sting and they weren't allergic to that bee sting, but let's say they get stung later, they get stung again. Now they seem to have a kind of a reaction to it. And then later on in their life, they get stung a third time. Now they have a severe reaction to it. Let's say they get stung a fourth time. Now they need a friggin' EpiPen, to keep their throat from swelling. So it's like every time that, um, I'm trying to think of it, that stimulus, or in this case, it was a sting, is added into their system, the ability to push it away becomes less and less. Now, you might be saying, well, that seems counterintuitive to our immune system. Usually, when we are exposed to certain bacteria, viruses, things like that, our immune system gets stronger. But it seems like in this case, like with an allergy or with a sting, more exposure is actually increasing or decreasing our body's ability to fight off that allergen. So that must mean that the body's trying to tell us something about that allergen. And so in this case, I don't feel like it's a physical, well, actually, right now it feels physical, like you physically have some crackling in your lungs, you physically have some nasal issues, and maybe it's been showing up in other ways, but everything keeps pointing to male. So now let's take this into the either metaphoric or symbolic sense. All this work that you've been doing, trying to balance things, trying to understand the feminine, trying to come to terms or healing with those that were the dominant feminine force in your life, that maybe they had created unintentionally some traumas. And trauma doesn't always mean like they beat the crap out of you or something. It just means like they did something that changed your outlook on how you do things in life, or how you look at females, or how you look at males, or how you look at the divine feminine or the divine masculine. And so it seems like there's a belief that a new belief that you're trying to bring in, that, okay, like let's say with this female, and she seems to keep popping up in your life, where it's like, okay, there is this female, and usually not always, the divine feminine has this intuition about them where they're able to kind of see the bigger picture, whereas the masculine is like, I just want to take action, right? Even if I don't have the bigger picture, I just want to take action. What's the goal? What's the strategy? What are we doing? And in this case, you're able to see the bigger picture. You're embracing that divine feminine. You can see in ways in which she can help herself to grow as a person, to grow spiritually. But yet you might perceive her to be actually more in her masculine, where she's like, I've just got this goal. I'm just doing this. I don't want to hear any other opinion. I don't want to see any other way. Kind of like we were talking about earlier when we were talking about all our feelings towards certain topics, that tend to keep us divided. That some people get really triggered. And it's like, I don't want to be quote unquote wrong. I want to have my way, and I don't want to see any other way. So I put on my little horse blinders, and you might see this in this person. And so, as you are trying to balance your own masculine and feminine, it seems like you're becoming allergic to those around you, and her just being the stand in for all people in that energy. Not all females, but like all people in that energy, where they have this wonderful opportunity to embrace her divine feminine, or for him to embrace his divine masculine. And yet people put up their blinders and like, I don't want to see any other way. I don't want to be wrong because I'm human and have an ego. And so it's very triggering for you. And in seeing that in others, you might be seeing that in yourself sometimes. And in that's where your own ego is getting triggered, even though you're not aware of it, because the fight is kind of like within you, but and so it's coming out in weird dreams and stuff like that. And that's how your subconscious is trying to wrestle with it, because in your conscious mind, you're like, I'm just going about my day. I'm having fine time, and all of a sudden I had this like asthma issue, or this like allergy issue, or all of a sudden I had this skin issue, and I don't know why. But the subconscious absolutely knows why. That's why the dreams are so strange. Well, not really strange, it's just they're active. um, so the subconscious is saying, but um, I'm doing my best to balance my feminine, my masculine. I'm embracing the masculine in its light. I'm trying to understand the masculine in its darkness. I'm embracing the femininity in its light. I'm trying to understand femininity in its darkness. And then there's like this little seed inside that's like, no, like you don't need to know anymore. No, like you've got it right. You've got the whole world figured out. Like no, there's no more that you need to know. So it's freaking out, it's rebelling. And so that allergy is actually coming from within. It's the I don't want to know anymore. Because people are upsetting me. Well, that's what your ego might say. Other people are upsetting me. They're not listening to me. I could see so clearly how they can fix their lives, but also the ego doesn't want to admit that sometimes other people might be seeing how you could grow as a person, how you could grow spiritually. But sometimes we might be so into our like spirituality and our growth that we can't see from any other perspective. And so yes, she's showing you a perspective. Yes, the blood sucking vampires at the doctor's office are showing you a perspective. Governments are showing you a perspective, Canadian government, American government, whatever government it may be. Watching people fight online is showing you a perspective. And right now, it's like you're having an allergy to all of it. It's just like, no, I just would like to be all enlightened now, and I don't want to see anything else. I want to, because like, how much more work do I have to do? How much more growth? um, so yeah, it's the ego, yes, clinging on a little bit, but I wouldn't knock the ego. I wouldn't berate yourself. It's just part of being human. But now you understand it. Now you know it. So next time, like before you go into your meditation, or if you don't meditate and you just want to have something to think on before you go to bed so you can work it out through your dreams, you just put in, okay, um, there is nothing wrong in wanting to learn more, that it doesn't make me weak. It doesn't make me less smart. We were talking about quadratic equations. Dude, I felt so dumb during those. But you know what? That's just the way our society has trained us, no matter what society we came from, that somehow wanting to learn more and having to sometimes admit that the previous information that we have may have been incomplete, therefore incorrect, somehow really triggers the ego. So I would say this is just a little talk with the self that it's okay. That's the belief that's being clung to right now, is the I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be wrong about that girl over there. I don't want to be wrong about the feminine, about myself, about my masculine, about, you know, I want to be able to just figure out the world and just be right about it. But, we're not gods. So we don't have it all figured out. We try our best, but no, we don't have it all figured out. So just giving yourself some TLC, basically. I was talking about self care earlier. For you, this is your self care. So maybe you're not having crying fits, or you're not exploding or passing out all narcoleptic style like me. But, maybe for you, it's the okay, that I need to work on the belief that I need to be right, and that somehow being wrong, is bad, or wanting to learn more, or having information I never previously had is somehow makes me feel dumb. Like, where does that come from? And once you figure it out, you'll be able to release it. And I'm pretty sure those allergies will go with it. So, um, okay. Um, Let me go back to your comments. Lilith says, I got my crucifix ready just in case he turns on us. Costolini says, mind tricks don't work on me, Lilith, only money. Fuchsia Dumpling says, and the heart. Costolini says, probably not, but just saying. Lilith says, purple hippo alert. Whoa. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Lilith says, must be the agave plants. Oh. Kostani says, so allergic to people who are in the energy of being fully in the masculine and willing to look at the feminine aspect, and unwilling. Yes. So it's seeing what people what other people are unwilling to see, like trying to take in any new information, tends to trigger you somehow because it's in you too. It's in all of us, even if it's in a minute degree. It's in all of us where we feel comfortable when we think we understand something completely. That's probably why some people like math, because they're like, well, 1 plus 1 is 2. Yay, that works. It's like it's always 1 plus 1 is 2. Feels good. I feel safe. It's great. And just when we think we have the world figured out, some physicist comes in is like 1 plus 1 is not always 2. Then it's like mind blown. Oh no, I can't take it in. This guy sucks. Burn that physicist at the stake. Heretic, you know? So, yeah, the ego just lashes out when all of a sudden it's like, because we want to be able to feel safe in our world. We want to be able to understand it, understand the people in it, but we're all different. We're never going to understand everybody. We're never going to understand the world completely. And so we have to be able to be okay with always being in flux of not understanding everything. But the ego doesn't feel that way. The ego just wants to label everything, put everybody in a box, and feel safe about it. And so just when you think you have everything figured out and somebody is showing you a different way, and then you see that in yourself where they're unwilling to see a different point of view, then you realize sometimes you're unwilling to see a different point of view. It's just very triggering. And then it's like, and then it comes out in allergies. Well, for you, allergies. Well, it's like, whoa, it's like he sneezes at the sight of clowns. Costolini says, okay, so the ego's still clinging on. I'm pretty burnt on the growth. Like the last 2-ish years have been like fast track summer school PhD level growth. This is yay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, this isn't a race. It's not a race to see who can be more enlightened or who loses their ego more than this. That's a whole public school Rockefeller thing. Let's not do that anymore. It's just about, hey, I've learned something new. Just moving on, and I'm moving at my own pace. I'm not at a rush. It's cool, you know. So yeah, you're very welcome, my friend. Thank you. All right. Do we have anybody else? Otherwise, we are going to dive into our guided meditation, maybe with the help of spearmint. I really hope you guys make this drink. It was so freaking good, by the way. Mm-hmm. And now I have fruit to eat. That's delicious. Okay, so spearmint helping us to simmer down now as a collective. So yes, a lot of us are feeling it. It as in the changes happening in the collective, in the ethers. And we may attribute those feelings to certain people or situations, but those people, those situations, those ailments, whatever they may be, they're all there in order to help provoke a release in us, whether we're releasing through sleep, through laughter, through anger, through tears, through I want to go scream a primordial scream into the forest, or I want to go like hit a punching bag, or whatever it may be. I'm going to go scream at a quadratic equation and tell it how I really think about it after all these years. All those things are just there so that we can just like release, because with all the stuff that's going on in the world, whether it's good stuff, bad stuff, it's a lot of stuff, and it's a lot for our nervous system to hold on to, especially because we have social media. We can watch literally within seconds what's going on all the way across the world. We can see every atrocity, but also every kitten video, everything. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And, back in the day before there was internet, if we go all the way back to like our native ancestors, the only thing our nervous system had to contend with was the feeling of the collective, but also just your own tribe and what was going on in your personal life. And that was pretty much about it. You didn't have to worry about the whole freaking world, what was going on Turtle Island. You just had yourself, your community. That was about it. But now we have to feel for the whole world, and it's a lot. And so it's going to come out in various ways. And so spearmint, I think, is going to be helpful with that. It's not a cure all. None of these herbs are meant to like cure us of everything. They're only meant to be our guide. That's why the creator put them here for all of us. So allow spearmint to be your guide in helping you to release what you have no control over, what you can't fix, what you can't do, and only have you to focus on what you can control. I can control my environment, myself, my reactions to things. I decide what I allow into my nervous system and into my energy field. But I can't control other people. I can't control wars. I can't control the rest of the world. All I can do is focus on me, healing myself. Then I can try helping other people. And like I said earlier, that's how governments, that's how countries, that's how the world changes, is changing with each individual person first, not trying to force a whole group first. It's each of us individually first. So spearmint, help us out with that. Cosina says, shouldn't we thank our government overlords for allowing us to do this meditation? Oh, yes. Thank you, government overlords. Oh, perhaps I should ask permission first before I'm allowed to do a meditation. But you know what? The government overlords show us, or the elites, or the cabal, or whatever you want to call them, the shadow governments, they showed us what it's like to be lorded over, what it's like to feel powerless, to feel repressed. And we know that that is an illusion. We don't have to be repressed. We don't have to be lorded over. So thank you, shadow government, cabal, evil, whoever you are. Thank you for showing us what we actually don't want. We actually want to be free. So thank you. Yeah, overlords. Take that. Lois is like, bro. Costanelli says, we'll get you a license to meditate. Oh, yes. I'll make sure I fill out the appropriate paperwork and then hand over my $300 for a meditation license. For sure. Okay. I'm feeling the drum today, actually. Let's do the heartbeat. I feel like spearmint's like, we got to get back to the heart, you guys. Heart space, grounded. There's a lot going on in the world. We got to come back to the present and our present space. Oh, FYI, on my travels with Vader, I found a horseshoe. Yay! Lucky horseshoe for our lucky meditation. Okay. Well, I guess I could put my glass here. I don't know. Okay. All right, you guys. Costalini said $65 annual registration fee with the CDC. Oh yes, of course, of course. I need to make sure I get FDA approval on this spearmint. I mean, what would I know what's good for me or not good for me had I not had a government entity to tell me so? Okay, go ahead and find yourselves a nice, comfortable space. A place you'll be undisturbed for the next several minutes. You could be laying in your bed, sitting in a chair, perhaps seated on the floor, or maybe you are outdoors and it's not so windy and you're underneath your favorite tree with a gentle breeze, listening to the birds chirping outside, maybe the sound of children playing. And as you just begin to situate yourself and bring your awareness to the breath, you start to do a little check-in on where you might be feeling the woes of the world, the energy of the world. Where are you storing it in your body? Do you feel it in the pit of your stomach? Does it weigh heavily on your heart? Are you feeling it as pressure behind your eyes, as an itchiness on the skin? Where are you feeling the energy of the world? And as you begin to focus on that breath, with every inhale, we bring that cool menthol relaxation that the mint family brings us, and let it blow that cool minty air over the things that feel stinging, biting, like a knot in the stomach, like a heaviness. Let it just soothe it. And with your exhale, releasing it. This is not ours to carry. Inhale and exhale. When we release, we are not becoming callous to the world. Rather, because of our love for the world and the people and the animals and the plants and the minerals and everything in this creation, we know that the way to help the world is to help ourselves first. Then you have the clarity, the groundedness, the ability, the energy to help those around you. But it starts with you. So again, as you breathe in, breathing that cool, minty air on that area that feels knotted, it feels heavy, stinging, itchy, where we are harboring the world's emotions and we are releasing it. We cannot help the world by destroying ourselves. Breathing in, breathing out. And as you continue breathing, inviting in Spearmint's energy to help you find ways in which to keep yourself grounded, calm and cool. When everything around you feels like it's shaking itself to pieces, you become the stable rock, the foundation, because you know the truth that starting with you helps everyone else. So let's focus on that. Let's focus on the heart. Come back to that center, that place where the Creator connects to us, the Creator speaks to us, the world speaks to us, our herbal allies speak to us, the collective speaks to us. Is in that heart. And let's just feel that beat. Just sit in this beautiful present energy, focusing on the breath, focusing on that cool, mentally feeling you might feel surrounding you at the moment, maybe even causing goosebumps on your skin. And take this with you not only for the rest of the day or the evening, but into this week and moving forward. And as we bid our spearmint friend adieu, we know that we can call in the spearmint energy at any time. And go ahead and bring your awareness back into the body, feeling into your fingers and toes, maybe giving them a little wiggle. Give yourself a nice big stretch. Yay! All right, you guys, thank you. I know this has been a very long live chat, but I missed you guys last week. So thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for sharing your world with me, your thoughts, your opinions, your everything, and I think that this is a beautiful community. This is how we create growth, is by being open, by sharing and listening. And thank you guys so much for allowing me to create my little red, white, and blue freedom tea with you guys, but also to share the story of Native Americans in the American Revolution, and also for you guys to share your points of view, because I know not everybody is in the United States. So I thank you for that, and thanks for hanging out with me and hanging out in the garden. And you guys are amazeballs. Thank you for everybody who allowed me to answer questions today. And oh yes, Costalina was talking about without that permit from the CDC/the FCC/ the whatever FBI and whatever 3-letter agency, I could hurt myself doing these meditations. Costalini said, stay safe and compliant, citizens. And Lila says, thank you very much, Tara. Thank you, guys. Peace, love, and chicken grease. Peace out. Bye, guys. Stay wild.